Welcome, everyone, from every which way of the Mormon, non-Mormon, never Mormon internet universe. I've got a big one for you today. The truth about Tim Ballard's excommunication from the church is coming out piece by piece. So today, our topic focuses on that man, the one who had never met a camera that he didn't want to drunkenly rant into while accusing the entire world of conspiring against him, the former anti-trafficking performer and current self-appointed messiah, Tim Ballard. So recently, Tim released a new video, which I want to put this gently, just to not scare anyone off, is just apocalyptic, self-aggrandizing nonsense that's just kind of like making Mormons everywhere say, I've had enough of that angry dude on my screen ranting, that Israel's their best friend and he's creepy with women and says that he would stop sex traffickers, but the evidence points more in favor of him being a sex trafficker. Can we watch something else, please? What's Tim Ballard doing? Tim Ballard is turning into this great uniter. So thank you for being here, because as I just explained in joke format, in a similar fashion, I feel like there's a Mormon civil war happening right now that I've talked about with historian Benjamin Park, wrote American Zion, on my channel 2 years ago, that I think is finally popping off in the same fashion that there's a MAGA civil war right now, where people are kind of starting to pick sides, uniting over a common enemy, the left and the right over the release of the Epstein files, and Mormons and ex-Mormons uniting over hating Tim Ballard for being a fraud who said he wanted to save sex trafficked kids. So a lot of people are like realizing some men don't want to save sex trafficked kids, but instead use them as leverage in gaining power for themselves. So if you're seeing all of that play out and want to discuss the news and the system's power that got us here, welcome in. This video we're going to be covering today, brand new drop from Tim Ballard last night. Tim announces that his excommunication happened on the Day of Atonement, which he claims is spiritually illegal. His defense is essentially, hey, Mormon Church, the Jewish lunar calendar says that this is not allowed. But the LDS Church doesn't really schedule disciplinary councils by when the Jewish holy days are. They schedule them by when they've had enough of sexual predators making them look bad. They schedule them more by when the media is about to become aware of your sex crimes. And if you're thinking, surely Tim won't ride this Day of Atonement symbolism too far into the sunset, oh, sweet summer child, buckle in. He's hearing voices telling him to do all kinds of things, including selling merch. So we'll break down all of Tim's latest video called Backfire and talk about the response from Mormons as well. A lot of people turning their back on Tim after today. Then continuing on the Mormon response, I've got some clips for you from a pro-LDS channel that is basically very succinctly let Mormons know what Tim's been accusing the church of in regards to the satanic child trafficking he's been talking about. His pro-LDS channel actually calls out your homegirl, Kara.
In a plot twist I didn't foresee, I found myself agreeing with Kara Burrell more than my fellow Latter-day Saint commenters.
The video is actually really great, taught them everything they know. Then we're going to be discussing what Tim's mental health has been like from people in his inner circle, and it's not looking pretty. It's even worse than I would have suspected. Trigger warning, the word crotch rot does come up in these tweets. And then finally, we'll be discussing what happened in Utah this week and with the Salt Lake DA dropping charges against him in one case. And we're going to be breaking down all of that, what it means, and how much hot water he still very much is in. So as always, please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. I'm building something right now that I hope people appreciate. It takes some creativity and journalism, research, humor, stamina, brain cells I don't have. So if you want to be part of this truth-telling group I just described and keep this going, supporting the show financially is the most direct way to help. And I'll be taking super chats throughout this live. If you want us to read your comment on the screen, that helps a ton. And there's also links below to our Patreon, donor box, and Venmo. So welcome to...
I watched all of Where's Timmy?
It's called Timmy Did What? We know where he is, not in jail, and that's the problem. But whatever Mormons want, whatever Latter-day Saints want, they get. Welcome to Where's Timmy going after what he's done. Everyone, give a warm welcome to my co-host, Ryan Fisher. He's known and worked with Tim since the start of his career. So Ryan, thank you for being here. Can you tell everyone about your background with Tim and why you take time out of your busy life to expose him?
Yeah, I take time out of my busy life because of exciting developments like what Tim just did, which I haven't seen any other president of the church do in the history of Mormonism. Unite bitter, angry ex-Mormons with active, religiously active, testimony-bearing members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Like, he's uniting all of us behind this mutual disdain for fraud that's being displayed right before us. But as amazing as that is, I guess your original question was, where do I come from? Yeah, I worked with him for 10 years. I was friends with him before, while he was at Department of Homeland Security, and helped him personally make the transition to a new organization that ended up becoming called Operation Underground Railroad. We call it OUR for short. And I was involved in all of that in the beginning stages of that. I was involved in the behind the scenes discussions with the church. I ran tours, American Covenant tours that Elder Ballard ended up going on for Tim's research, his messaging to America, the crusade that he was on. And I was fully invested 100% in behind this guy. Really gave him 6 years of my life of dedication. And it took a long time to figure out that he was actually not who he claimed he was, that he was in it for money, self-aggrandizement, political ambition, and that he would do whatever it took to meet those ends, including taking advantage of women, taking advantage of people financially, lying or mistelling the facts of what happened to make himself look good, including misrepresenting who he was and his relationships with the church and with Elder Ballard. I mean, he's just a constantly shifting narrative of conspiracy theories, propaganda, religious manipulation, and a whole bunch of other stuff, including drug abuse and things that we've talked about in our podcast. So I platformed him. I was the first one to platform him. Not something I'm proud of. I got him into the public eye by putting him on a TV show I ran called DeFi Explorer that was on air on twice every Sundays for 4 years between 2012 and 2016. And after I came to a realization of who he is, and I saw the damage he was doing in people's lives, including the marriages and families he was breaking up because he couldn't keep his passions to himself, I felt the responsibility to deplatform him. So joined forces with you. We have like minds. You were able to see his BS years ago. And I'm like, there's somebody that gets it. So here we are talking about him. And now I'm really excited because by his own words and the stuff that he's putting out right now, he's validating everything we've been saying. And members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are waking up to see who he is and what his true colors are. And so, yeah, great uniter. Nobel Peace Prize for Tim Ballard, uniting ex-Mormons and active members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's quite impressive.
Yeah. And somebody said, like, you were all in. I put that up on screen, and I do want this to be kind of a welcoming video more than my normal ones. I am the nuancehoe, after all. I want to listen, take in different perspectives, change my mind as I see fit, with new information coming. And I hope that the audience watching is that same type of person too, wherever you come from, whatever your background is, left, right, religious, not religious, Mormon, never Mormon, and all of those things. But for you, Ryan, thank you for explaining how close you were to Tim Ballard and how you were a true believer in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as well. Me too. A lot of our audience is that way. And so this is not a video to tear down Mormons whatsoever. We have our own personal faith journeys. This is talking about a systemic issue within organizations, this one being the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the type of narcissists that can use theology, use prominence and, respect of power to gain access, to pull on people's heartstrings, make a enormous amount of money for themselves. And then when they actually are put in a place where it's time to have some integrity and answer honestly, if, you were excommunicated for X, Y, and Z reasons, the couple's ruse, all of the things that Ryan just mentioned, can he actually honestly admit that he was excommunicated, and for doing nefarious things, for sleeping with women that weren't his wife. Bare minimum. Like Mormons in the comments are finally kind of coming to that realization that bare minimum, he's not who he says that he was. All right. So,
and there's no shame in that. Like, you wanted to support, the efforts to save kids. So did I. So did a lot of people. All the women that came forward, same thing, where they wanted to support these very noble efforts to save kids. Human trafficking is a real thing. There's no shame in supporting Tim. But once that you find out what's really been going on, then I think we all have a responsibility. Myself, anybody that was his supporter, now we have a responsibility to unsupport him, stop the harm, stop the lies. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I think that's the integral thing to do. All right. So I'm going to jump into Tim's new release of this documentary. It's called Backfire. I said, go right ahead. So about 2 days ago, Tim put up this new announcement where he said, any retaliation to my wife, children, or team, ecclesiastical or otherwise, will be met by immediate international headline news. Media outlets have been made aware and are monitoring. Note that it will be broadcast on all social media channels as well as my YouTube page. And this picture that says, episode 1 drops tomorrow, Backfire, the excommunication story of Tim Ballard. That is what we're going to be watching today.
Get the popcorn.
Get the popcorn. All right. So I'm just going to play it and we're just going to kind of react to it. And please leave all of your comments about what you think. And Ryan, just let me know and I will pause it as you tell me to. Sound good?
Sound good.
Okay.
People inside the LDS church.
The church that I was raised in, that I gave everything to, betrayed me in the worst way. They also betrayed my best friend, President Emerson Ballard. And all this to cover up what? Child sexual abuse? Trafficking around the world? Find out what they did, because how they did it tells you exactly why they did it. Today is October 1st, 2025. It's the Day of Atonement. That's a very significant day. It's a day of repentance and forgiveness. And it's with that spirit that I hope to come to you today.
All right, anything jump out to you so far?
Sorry. Repentance and forgiveness. This is what repentance.
Exactly what we're seeing.
That's what we're seeing. This is like a humble guy. That's, I mean, I guess is he asking? He's challenging the church to repent and forgive. I don't know. Explain this to me. Repentance and forgiveness. That's not what I'm seeing.
Can we tell the crowd who we were messaging with today, or do we still have to keep that a secret?
Probably not.
Well, somebody close to the situation was laughing their ass off, was what they told us at Tim's declaration that he refers to M. Russell Ballard, the apostle that passed away last year, as his best friend. His best friend. Not only is that trying to craft a narrative, it also is just like, your best friend? Like, really? You guys were shooting pool, doing coke together?
Yeah, I've never had a best friend publicly denounce me and call me morally unacceptable in a very public press release type of way. Has that happened to you? Because I haven't seen that before, but maybe I'm weird.
Well, everyone in the comments who left $100 as my best friend, let's just give a quick thank you so much to, I have an idea of how to say that. I know that it's one of those words that's the same in the back, and it's Finnish. I found that out from a gentleman.
Cool.
But thank you so much for the $100. Savapulafakasasapis is what I'm going to go with. Amazing what people are willing to do: lying, manipulation, gaslighting, coercion, etc. when people feel that God is on their side. Love the Kara/Ryan collab. By the way, love the haircut, Kara. Oh my gosh. Thank you for the $100. This is also how I pay Ryan. Everyone compliment Ryan on his haircut if he had one.
Yeah, I'm not getting compliments. Your hair is rocking the internet world right now. I can't compete with that.
Well, thank you, anonymous donor, for the $100. That is going to do wonders. And Brian, $5. Tim must be so sick to be going so hard still at this grift. I worry for his family as he continues to spin out. Are the women saying anything new? Are the women saying anything new? They kind of have a little bit of a gag order to not be able to talk right now, but
because of open litigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but their voice is going to be heard loud and clear, hopefully very soon.
Yep. Thank you so much for the $5. Thanks for the support, guys. You guys are keeping us alive. Ryan's hair looks so good under his hat. That's what I was saying.
It's exactly why I'm wearing the hat, because it's not that.
Okay, so that's Tim's intro. We'll keep playing it.
Yeah, the repentance and forgiveness, the humility, and the music adds all to that too.
Not one of vengeance, but of forgiveness. The spirit that Jesus said on the cross. They know not what they do, so forgive them, Father. The Day of Atonement is also significant. It's the only day in the biblical law where excommunications are forbidden. I believe that God still speaks to us through such symbolisms. And on September 25th, 2023, because the Jewish calendar changes, that was also the Day of Atonement. And it was the day that certain individuals dared to lie, to cheat, to work with tabloid magazines, to defame many people, and excommunicate me.
People inside the LDS Church
tried to excommunicate me. According to them, they have done that. On the Day of Atonement.
According to them, they have done that. Also, according to you, you said they excommunicated you on Julie Green's podcast. Those were your words, Tim.
Yeah, we didn't find out from them. We found out from him, confirmation.
Right. Okay.
September 25th, 2023. I'm not speaking, however, on my behalf. I'm speaking on behalf of those who were hurt by that decision. My wife, who was brutalized by people through this. My children, my sweet children, who were told to believe that they no longer will live together forever with their father, so deal with it. But way beyond that, countless children have not been rescued because of these lies. Because of what I will call the order of the lukewarms, those who use the name of Jesus Christ, his church.
I'm just going to come out spitting here. Ryan, if there's ever lukewarms, we're referring to the biblical passage where Jesus is like, if you're cold, I know what to do with you. If you're hot, you can come in my club. But if you're lukewarm, I spit you out of my mouth. Make up your mind. Get off the pot or get with me. I'm just going to come out and say it. I just feel like if there's anyone who's using the name of Jesus Christ and is a lukewarm, it's Tim Ballard, who is credibly accused of committing various sex crimes. And I don't know, just like has extreme amounts of evidence relating to his ability to not handle alcohol, something that he should not even be drinking in the first place as a Mormon. So I'm like, anyone close to Tim knows his track record of sleeping with people who aren't his wife. That's breaking his covenants, doing drugs, allegedly, drinking, allegedly. These are things like, according to the lawsuits, paying $2.5 million into like a laundering scheme through OUR to pay for prostitutes. Those are like really even, I wouldn't even say those are lukewarm in terms of what Jesus would say. Jesus is like, "Ooh, spit you out of my mouth for sure." So he is using a lot of, intense rhetoric right now to pull on the heartstrings. And I don't know who this is fooling. Your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, well, I mean, you just look at what he's actually alleging here, that the church used Elder Ballard's name in vain to attack him and defame him when Elder Ballard didn't have those opinions about Tim. Meanwhile, he prefaces that by saying, Elder Ballard is my best friend. Like, who's using Elder Ballard's name over and over? The church issued one press release like 2 years ago saying that Tim used Elder Ballard's name for his own self-promotion. What is Tim doing right now? This whole video and everything that comes out of his mouth referring to Elder Ballard his best friend. We were so close. He was like a grandfather to me. And he repeats all that in this video, that he's using Elder Ballard's name to promote whatever you call this, self-aggrandizing, reputation-saving nonsense. But then he also says, and they used the name of Jesus Christ in vain when they don't have authority to do so, or when they shouldn't be. Well, I mean, he's invoking Jesus Christ left and right. And so I don't know. It's everything that's coming out of his mouth here is either an admission of guilt, something that he's doing personally, or it's just, I don't know how he can't see that he's doing the very things that he's accusing the church of. The church attacked him and ruined his reputation. All of a sudden, what is he doing? He's attacking the church and trying to ruin their reputation. I mean, how do you not see this? Has this guy never walked in front of a mirror? Is he not hearing the words that he's coming out of his mouth? I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
This is a true story of, this is Timmy Did What podcast. It's not just to tell you about the news. It's to tell you about how to heal relationships in your personal life too. If somebody around you is accusing you of things, narcissist accusations are really more like admissions. So keep that in mind in your interpersonal relationships. We're here to help always. So yeah, Ryan's dead on. And not to mention, Tim is flipping out that I never used Elder Ballard's name. Remember when he got caught in Boston and he made the video? When I played at the beginning, he's like, I would never use his name. I would never use his name. He's like a grandfather to me. He loves me so much. He approves of all the activities I would do. I would never misuse my best friend's grandfatherly name, who's an apostle. Like,
yeah. And Elder Ballard has since deceased, and so he can't be here to defend himself. Likewise, President Nelson has recently passed away, and now he brings President Nelson into this chat.
True. All right. Keep going.
Yeah. To work evil. I've said this from the beginning, and I'll say it again. I would rather be guilty of those false accusations than be guilty of what he and others did. To use the name of Jesus Christ, to violate Scripture. And we will go over all of this in detail. The mental gymnastics that these people must play now to justify their evil acts. Really what they're doing is assuaging their own guilt. The condemnation that they have taken upon themselves leaves me only with hope for them and true forgiveness. I explained to you in the upper room last week in Jerusalem a very important truth of what's happening right now because of these evil workings. There is a mass conspiracy. There are criminal and civil investigations in multiple countries, and it all boils down to what these people, these lukewarm watchmen on the tower. I don't mean to be demeaning when I say lukewarm. This is a scriptural principle. You cannot use the name of Jesus Christ to hurt Jesus Christ. And while I was speaking, I don't know how they're dealing with this right now, but they must not like it. As I was speaking in the upper room, and I began to explain this scriptural principle, speaking to the church of how the lukewarms get spit out because they use Jesus' name, a voice appeared, a heavenly voice appeared. That there's hot and there's cold. And said, deliver the rights. In fact, I didn't say this, but I'll say it now. Isolate it. The video's there for you. Isolate the voice. What he actually said was, Tim, do it. Deliver the rights. And I intend to do that. And this is phase one in doing that. It's phase one in the commencement of what we and many other governments around the world are calling Operation Millstone.
Okay. He was in the upper room in Jerusalem, and they said, deliver the rights. And he also made that into a hat that he's selling on his website with the cross on it.
Yeah. Deliver the rights. What an ambiguous statement. He then goes into an explanation in this other video on what that means, that they looked it up, and it means deliver the God-given rights of every person, like as outlined in the Bill of Rights and enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, the God-given rights of every person, deliver those. And so he took that. I'm still struggling to make the connection on how accusing the church of sexual ritual abuse of children is the outcome of a creepy voice telling them to deliver the rights. I'm not making that connection, but whatever it is, what's the irony that I see in this right now is, so the upper room in Jerusalem that he claims he was at, It's just a tourist attraction. I've been there before. Who knows if it's really the upper room where Christ had the Last Supper? That's up for debate. We'll probably never know. It could be any one of those rooms, and the building probably doesn't even exist now. Anyways, he's in this upper room and he hears this creepy voice, deliver the rights. Meanwhile, just like almost a stone throws away down south of him is the war against the Palestinians and the Palestinian-Israeli war, and tens of thousands of children are being killed and suffering and starving. And where's their rights? You know, like I'm not going to get political between Hamas and Israel and who's in the right and wrong, but the children and the people there that are caught in the crossfires of this battle are absolutely being slaughtered. Like, where are their God-given rights for pursuit of happiness, liberty, like all the things. But he won't talk about that because of his political ideology aligning with Israel and with the current presidential administration supplying weapons to Israel and all that. He won't go into that. Like, those people don't have rights, apparently. Just don't want to call out the hypocrisy because he's standing right there in the West Bank in the middle of this Palestinian-Israeli conflict and not talking about rights for the children that happen to be Palestinian caught in the crossfires and the women and everything like that. So deliver the rights to who? I guess in his mind, the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and property are only for a specific group of people, and they don't extend to all people, all of God's children across the entire world. Apparently so. That's what I'm reading into it. Right. But also there's this voice, and I appreciate I've noticed in a lot of the pro LDS YouTube channels and podcasters and commenters, they're calling that demonic possession. I mean, it sounds creepy. It's creepy as F, and I can't even understand it, but they're calling it a demonic possession. I hate using demons as a justification for any of his actions because it absolves him of responsibility. So I'm not going to like give him a cop out that he's just like possessed. He's just a bad person. Let's just lay that groundwork. However, but that's what the pro LDS people are saying is like, this kind of looks really, really disturbing and satanic and creepy and paranormal, and I don't know. So that I just don't think it's having the intended effect, him playing that voice and taking inspiration from that voice, whatever it was, whether somebody just passed gas in the corner, I don't know, whatever it was. He's taking inspiration from that, but his followers, LDS people, are not buying it. They're actually siding with like, that's probably more on the possession, demonic side of things. So that's the ultimate backfire, playing off of the title of this video.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good backfire, because if you listen to this entire video, he's making a lot of claims, but he doesn't back up any of them with evidence. And the evidence that he provides in any concrete form is like a sound of a spirit, of a voice, of like something that is obviously faked, disproven. Like, Tim has a history of faking audio on his videos. He has a history of manipulating documentary footage to document things that are actually just him role playing that just didn't happen. So I wouldn't put it past him to obviously put something in there that sounds like some heavenly angel or voice from God telling him to sell more hats to people with that phrase on it. And furthermore, I think you make a great point about the Gaza genocide that's happening right now. And it pains me that so much of what Tim could be talking about is based in conspiracy instead of being based in what is actually bringing the rights to the most amount of children, because the way that Americans talk about trafficking has always been shaped by conspiracy theories. And so now that there are actual children being harmed, whether in Gaza or there's actual children who are now adults standing on Capitol Hill this week talking about how they were raped and abused by Epstein and his clientele, we have a government that is really not too interested in bringing the rights to children and victims of sex abuse. But the myths, people are saying like Tim Ballard brought all this attention to sex trafficking. Hey guys, what about the sex trafficking that's being happening right before our eyes that all these elite pedophiles are involved in. It's after all of this comes out with Epstein files, after all of this comes out with Tim Ballard, we're going to understand the same story, that it's sex trafficking is not the brown people coming across the border. It's not somebody like just being snatched out of a parking lot. 99.9% of the time, it's people not having access to health and human services. It's not being able to have ability to get themselves out of poverty. And we're going to see that in the Epstein victims. We've seen that from the way that Tim Ballard paints a picture of who the enemy is versus who the good guys are. After all this comes out, we're going to see that the enemy is a class of billionaires who are sipping martinis and traveling to islands. And that conspiracy is as broad as can be. It's not just what the conspiracies are that the Sound of Freedom folks want you to think. It's going to be much different. And when that's being played out right in front of us with evidence, it angers me to no end that the Sound of Freedom, Tim Ballard, white evangelical crowd is still acting like, oh, well, they're only shutting Tim Ballard down because he doesn't want to pay attention to sex traffickers. He's not paying attention to sex traffickers right now. It's literally the number one topic of conversation in our entire country. Okay. Yeah. Drives me insane.
You make like a excellent point. That is the topic that's happening in the news cycle right now. The Epstein fallout of all of the powerful people that were sex trafficking kids. Like, it's not conspiracy theory at this point. He's a convicted sex trafficker, and the people around him are implicated in all this with plenty of evidence. That's not a conspiracy theory anymore. And yet, who's absent from the chat? This guy.
Oh, that was your thing.
I mean, he's absent from the chat. Like, absent from the chat. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And last point I want to make on that, I was thinking about is that, you know how the House just voted for 27-1 to release the Epstein files, you know? Yeah. And everyone's like, okay, who's that one senator? Like, check his computer. Yeah. Like, who's that one person who voted against the majority to not have the Epstein files released? That's going to go down in history for the rest of that person, that senator's like history of voting, that he was against that. And like, that's a valid point. On top of that, you know whose more important vote during the Epstein files should be counted? Tim Ballard. Your vote is against releasing the Epstein files, it looks like, because you haven't said a goddamn word. So check his computer, check his history. Why doesn't he care about, you know, the biggest story of the country right now of actually standing up for sex trafficked victims? Your entire niche is being talked about right now, and he's bringing attention to himself. Okay.
You're the expert. You're the expert, Tim. Like, tell us, you know, you're the expert on exposing, you know, institutionalized ritual abuse, sexual abuse of children. But instead of focusing on what's verifiable and what we actually know is happening, he's spinning a make-believe land conspiracy theory about things happening within the church, but hasn't provided any evidence. If that stuff's real, we need to talk about it. But extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and he hasn't provided any evidence of that so far, besides his own opinion. And so, dude, just stick to reality, man. Like, stick to the reality. Give us some evidence if you got any. And we can go from there.
Right. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm like, is this what just rich white people do, is just use children as leverage? Are we doing that thing again? I'm bored of it. I want to move on. All right. Yeah. Keep playing.
They tried to excommunicate me and hurt children. They knew they were going to do that. But what they didn't count on was Jesus Christ, ironically. And I tell you now that what I will say is in the name of Jesus Christ. I want to add a very important disclaimer. Though you will learn through this story that President Nelson's name was used in vain by the stake president and by others, he did not know this was happening. This happened behind his back. I sustain him now and forever as a prophet of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And you will learn that he was appalled at the workings of the area president.
Tim, I guarantee you don't have evidence that he was appalled.
Yeah.
Literally, pause, clip this. Please present the evidence that he was appalled. Because in the video that we made last week, Tim released a 54-page letter to the first presidency addressed to President Nelson, Elder Oaks, Eyring, all up there. He said that he went through multiple channels. He said that he did everything he could to appeal his excommunication over the last 2 years. And then he's like, actually, I don't want to be in your dumb club, only because he wasn't allowed back in. Right. So he also mentioned in the last interview that he smuggled a bunch of information into the secretary of the prophet of the church. But he says he definitely didn't see it. He definitely get all my emails, and he definitely was appalled. Not only do excommunications always have to go through the first presidency, and the prophet definitely knew about it. And then he definitely wasn't appalled because the PR guy, Doug Anderson, was still working for the church as the main PR spokesperson for the church long after. So in Tim's mind, he's like, he didn't see it. And he was like, oh my gosh, terrible, terrible, terrible. If there was only some way I could reach out to Tim and get him back in the church. Too bad he's done appealing. Oh, I really wish I had him back in because I'm really appalled by the decision that we made. But we'll still keep the PR guy because I don't want to let go of that guy. Is this logic making sense? I'm really like hyped up here. Thanks for being with me through this trial.
He, according to this story, President Nelson was appalled that Tim was excommunicated over apparently nothing. Now, Tim omitted that and hasn't talked about that or provided any, like even claimed that for the last 2 years until just recently, President Nelson passed away. And now all of a sudden he's talking about President Nelson and what President Nelson thought and that he was on his side this whole time. Of course, President Nelson isn't here to defend himself, just like Elder Ballard isn't here to correct the record and call him. So he's like crafting his story based on what's unverifiable because the people aren't here. And it's just absolutely appalling and disgusting. And
which is kind of what he's always done.
That's what he's always done. Like we've been talking about this for 2 years.
Yeah.
And if his claims about sexual ritual abuse within the church going all the way to the top are true, I would expect as a former Department of Homeland Security agent and investigator that he would have interviewed and gotten firsthand testimony of people that happened to. And so far, he's made those claims without any firsthand testimony. He hasn't provided any evidence of any of that. Now, that's not to say that stuff's not happening, because the survivors and the people that have come forward with testimonies, they absolutely should be believed. But he's trying to hijack that narrative, which is out there for his own purposes. He just saw that and saw, oh, how can I weave a narrative in which the church is infiltrated and they're bad, which will make me look good. Well, there's this SRA going on and there's survivors coming forward. I'm going to attach myself to that cause and claim that that's real to make the upper management of the church look bad and show that they've been infiltrated. And it's so disingenuous to people that have come forward as real victims that have been through something traumatic and are outspoken on this, that a guy like this guy is trying to hijack their testimonies for his own personal political ambitions and getting back in favor with the church by threatening him with that stuff. Like he's using victims of SRA for his own personal use all over again. And that's what he does. He's used the victims that have come forward with their allegations of sexual abuse. And he's just reusing victims. And he was using the victims of the Druze crisis to make himself look good. He's this guy that goes around and finds desperate people in desperate situations, people that have been actually traumatized and victimized in some way, and then inserts himself into the situation with a call for donations to come to him because he'll help them. He'll help the people that aren't being helped. And so it's like it's really just as low as you can possibly go to seek out victims and then try and make money off of their suffering. That is just appalling and disgusting. And I don't know what more can be said. It's evil. It's just like straight up evil. That's how I see it anyways.
Right. He's a like sex abuse survivor entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
That's so gross, but it's true.
Yeah. Excellent explanation. Thank you, Ryan.
Evan Pearson, the stake president and those involved, the PR committee, you will learn the truth about what really happened and how so many names were used in vain, but most severely the name of Jesus Christ.
Divine law is dependable. Divine law is incontrovertible.
Please pay attention very carefully to what I'm going to say.
Does it feel like he's trying to brainwash people right now? Like,
Yeah.
if I was thrown in the back of a truck with a bag over my head and taken to like a re-education facility, this is what I would expect to watch in a movie theater.
Yeah.
Like a cold shivering movie theater in the back of a warehouse, like the glitchy screen and the music playing lightly.
Music. Yeah.
Like, this is your new God now.
I cannot lie right now. I cannot. What I'm going to say, I have said or will say under oath. Lawsuits are dropping. I can't say something that I can't back up. This is too serious. This is a major conspiracy against the United States government, against governments around the world. And when I tell you the facts, you will know that what I'm saying is true. Pray for the souls of the people who did this. It is a long, long road back when you use the name of Jesus Christ to hurt children. What do they say about this voice? In the upper room, I wonder, I can guess they're saying it's the devil. I hope they are, because that makes it easier to identify who they are in the scriptural account. For the same people in the same spirit under the order of the lukewarms also said that the miracles accompanying our Savior were of the devil.
Oh, whoa.
Mm-hmm. Whoa, he
Tim.
called us out. He called us out. Damn,
no.
he figured it out.
Flawless logic.
Mm.
When you call things the devil, that's how you know that you're the devil for calling out the devil. Damn it.
I know.
Checkmate
I guess
him. Oh.
that's what the Pharisees in the New Testament did. They called the miracles of Jesus acts of the devil. And so the creepy voice that he heard in that room, I guess he's equating that with the miracle of raising from somebody from the dead, where he, turning fishes and loaves into a feast that could feed the crowd. Like, he's experienced one of those miracles, and by calling it an act of the devil, that exposes us, exposes all the LDS folks that are saying, I don't know, that seems like pretty demonic to me.
Mm-hmm.
You be the judge. Are you on the side
What
of
else is an excommunication, though, Ryan and audience, if it's not saying you need to repent and you have succumbed to the devil? So how could he possibly be excommunicated if the people who are in the position of power to think that they can excommunicate them by finding that problem within him, they don't even know how to identify it? Tim does.
Yeah, I'm starting to really wonder why his appeals for reinstatement in the church were denied. I mean, this guy's pretty convincing. Seems pretty humble, repentant. He's admitted faults and he wants to change his ways. I see no reason for not overturning his excommunication and letting him back in the church. I don't know, but
I mean, in all seriousness, anyone from the church who's watching this and they're taking a chance on the old Kara and Ryan show to get to the truth of this, I don't mean this as an insult, but maybe you know where I'm going, where this is kind of like Frankenstein's monster, coming back to eat himself, something of that analogy in that realm, where it's like, oh no, this guy is using all these unfalsifiable claims. I wonder where he got that idea from. I wonder where he thought that was solid logic. Love you, Mormons. Still love you, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Timmy.
So I welcome them to say it. It'll be easier to identify who they are and pray for them, that they may humble their hearts and not continue to drink condemnation to their souls. This story begins with a true watchman on the tower, an amazing person, a Christ-like man. Elder M. Russell Ballard, who died as the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, he was my best friend. He would tell you that. He was like a grandpa to me. He would tell you that as well. In October of
2016,
before many people even knew who I was, in the presence of a fellow brother and volunteer servant to President Ballard, Ken Krogh, I was given a priesthood blessing. Now, this blessing was repeated many times by President Ballard. Many people in our close circle knew about this. He said two significant things. In 2016, he said, within 10 years, Tim, you will be a household name, and the gates of hell will open up against you.
Now, Ryan, you knew Tim around this time. What is your recollection? Did that really happen? Is he confusing it with Tom Harrison's blessings because that's more recognizable of a name? What do you think?
Yeah, I also knew and met Ken Krogh as well, who is involved right now in a defamation lawsuit, I think in Sanpete County, in which he was spreading information about what he claimed was sexual ritual abuse and the cremation of children happening at a local business, and accusing people of pretty heinous crimes. He's involved in that, and down in Sanpete County, Sanpete Valley. He's one of the Tom Harrison groupies. So when Tim got kicked out of OUR, he took with him Ken Krogh, Brad Bauer, who was Elder Ballard's son-in-law, who was running a lot of his for-profit businesses. And Ken
Brad Bauer?
Yeah, Brad Bauer, that guy, the Elder Ballard's son-in-law.
Everyone remember that name for future episodes.
Yeah. This is the tangled web of Tim Ballard. So after he got kicked out of OUR, his most loyal followers or whatever were, two of them were Ken Krogh and Brad Bauer. Ken went over to the Spear Fund. He's been with Tim this whole time. He is also a believer in Tom Harrison, who was the person featured in Visions of Glory, the apocalyptic doomsday book that inspired Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell to murder their children, and also Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke to abuse their children. That Tom Harrison was also the spiritual guru for Tim and Ken Krogh. And so Ken Krogh learned, this has come out in all these documents that have been released through the litigation. Ken Krogh learned how to spiritually channel spirits in the other world in the same way Tom Harrison was from Tim and Tom. And so Ken was receiving revelations from people beyond the veil about all sorts of stuff, just like Tim was doing when he was on ketamine. So Ken Krogh now is brought into the conversation as somebody that witnessed this prophecy by Elder Ballard that Tim would be a household name. However, there's a recording of them talking about that I've heard, and I don't believe he mentions that the gates of hell will be opened against you in that prophecy, but he was referring to Tim and that his name would be a household name in a positive way. And when I was involved with Tim, and I was involved in, I got a special calling from Elder Ballard to make a TV series about Tim to self-fulfill that prophecy. Elder Ballard's vision for Tim's career was for him to become a household name, for him to become an ambassador for Mormonism, to wake up the nation to the realities of the American Covenant message, which is you need to serve God or you're going to be swept off and bad things are going to happen. Elder Ballard wanted Tim, and I heard this, directly from Elder Ballard's own mouth. He wanted Tim to become a figure of importance in American culture, an ambassador to evangelical Christianity. And Elder Ballard assigned me with a personal calling to make a TV show about Tim and his American Covenant message that would reach a national audience. And that was in 2016. I think it was March of 2016 when I had that meeting with Tim, Elder Ballard, and Jar Moreland, the CEO of OUR. So that story tracks with everything I was witnessing at the time. I didn't hear that prophecy firsthand. I wasn't in that whatever meeting they had. However, I see it not as a prophecy, but more as a goal. And Elder Ballard was doing everything he possibly could to throw his weight and influence behind Tim to make that happen and extend personal invitations to people like ClickFunnels founder Russell Brunson. Reached out to him to have him personally donate money and time and expertise and marketing to OUR to get that funded so that Tim could go on this religious crusade. Elder Ballard extended the calling or invitation to me to do something similar, making a TV show about Tim that would reach a national audience. And so that's what Elder Ballard was doing behind the scenes to try and make Tim a household name in the end. And was Elder Ballard, envisioning these ends of Tim's career? I don't think so. I'm going to side on the position that
Ryan, you cut out for a sec.
Oh, shoot.
And it was really climactic too.
I know.
The position
I'm citing on the position of Elder Ballard being deceived, just like everybody else who was supporting Tim in supporting him. So the prophecy about him being a household name, I don't see it as a prophecy. I see it as like, this is what we're working towards. And all the people that were brought into Tim's sphere were brought in for the purpose of trying to make Tim a household name. And that ultimately came to fruition with the Sound of Freedom movie. Sound of Freedom movie came out. Tim, I don't know about household name, but he was very well known because of that movie. And when I saw the movie premiere, I was like, damn it, they got it done. Elder Ballard's vision for the career of Tim Ballard was successful. That's exactly where all of the book deals for Deseret Book, the Simon & Schuster subsequent book deals that got axed, and all of these efforts with getting celebrities involved, Glenn Beck, Tony Robbins, everybody else, all that was to propel Tim into becoming a household name so that he could go off on his religious message of the American Covenant. And that they did it. They pulled it off with the Sound of Freedom movie. However, what they didn't count on, it was that Tim was really uncontrollable. He couldn't bridle his passions. He couldn't resist the lure of fame and money and self-aggrandizement. And it all went to his head in really horrible ways. So they didn't see that one coming, unfortunately. Otherwise, Tim would probably be like starting a presidential bid at this moment for the next presidential election. So Ken Krogh, religious fanatic. The vision for Tim wasn't a prophecy, more like a career goal, which was achieved in 2022.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. And it just goes to show that within religious contexts, you give a man kind of like a roadmap, that you have all these different people who are willing to support him along the way. Yeah, he's going to become a household name, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be based on true things. It doesn't mean that that person will know how to put the brakes on and know the difference between their own voice and God's voice. Like, it's very dangerous giving men power to act on behalf of God to begin with. I don't think that's what God or what Jesus meant when he said the kingdom of God is within, that you should go get blessings from a circle of men who want you to achieve these ends of being a household name, no matter the cost. So not based on true things. That's kind of an important thing to mention. Let's look out at who we think speaks for God is the overall message. Okay. And then there was one comment that I wanted to read. Active members, shout out. Nifty Thrifty 3 said, active member here for all the Timmy episodes because we are tired of him using our community to do all this gross stuff. Great coverage on this, Kara. And Ryan, thank you so much. Active members, I am really being my most nuanced prude for Christ for you guys today. So you're safe in my hands. Okay. Keep those comments coming. Super chats are always welcome. All right. Keep playing.
Who could have predicted such a thing at that time? Few people knew who I was in 2016, but within 10 years, certainly Sound of Freedom came out.
Sound of Freedom has become one of the biggest box office hits of the year, raking in over $140 million across the U.S.
And Sound of Freedom was a blockbuster success, as you know, and it opened the doors to rescue so many children. And it happened. In fact, Elder Ballard was calling me weeks before people in the church would lie to you and say that he cut me off. He didn't cut me off. They lied. They said in their horrible, horrible, evil, defamatory statement. They said that Elder Ballard cut me off for having used his name to do immoral things. Isn't it funny how the projection manifests here? That's exactly what they did. They used his name, the name of an apostle of Jesus Christ, to do immoral things against me and children by suggesting that he would have done something so devilish as to cut off his best friend, not talk to him, not say a word to him, just cut him off without talking to him. He learns about it for the first time. How? Through a tabloid magazine. Yes, Doug Anderson, the PR voice, the representative of the church, decided with representatives of Jesus Christ to lie about Elder Ballard, to lie about me, and send it to a tabloid magazine that's pro-pedophile and anti-Mormon. Tell me you're guilty without telling me you're guilty with that act alone.
Does that act alone really prove that? LDS members in the chat, please announce yourself and let me know your thoughts. I think Vice News was just kind of doing some investigations. You know, there's Wall Street Journal, there's New York Times, there's Wired Magazine, there's Rolling Stone. A lot of people throughout the years have written things on you, Tim. And sometimes they discover something because of the reason that you were booted out of your own organization. They do some digging and they kind of need a statement from your church, and your church wants to give them a statement so that they distance themselves. I don't think that really proves what you think it does. Thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely right. It doesn't prove what he thinks it does. It doesn't at all. Like him getting denounced, like everything hinged off that. And it's not landing, Tim. People aren't buying it. They're just not buying it. I don't know how to get that through his head.
You're best friends with an 85-year-old man either.
Yeah.
His best friend. Braid each other's hair.
Who are these people? Why would they do this? What effects has it had? Well, let me tell you the story. Elder Ballard was calling me in August of 2023, having not cut me off, still my best friend, saying, Tim, do you remember the prophecy that I gave you, that you would be a household name? 100 million people have seen this film. And we kind of joked.
And you've abused it. You've gotten that power, and now you've gone too far. This is my last phone call with you. Goodbye.
Yeah, because that was I believe, if I'm remembering right, the timeline of events, that was after the whiteboard meeting. Or it's right around that time where Tim is in full display on the whiteboard outlining all of his for-profit businesses, how the nonprofits are going to funnel money into his for-profit businesses. And then he has written right there, silent partner, Elder Ballard, in all of this. Like, this is his grand plan for making money and continuing this rise to fame. And he writes right up there on the whiteboard, Elder Ballard. He wrote all that stuff out. And so like, to try and tell us that he wasn't using Elder Ballard's name for his own personal profit, it's just, we all have seen the whiteboard clip. Like, dude, you're just lying, and it's so obvious.
It's simpler. Occam's razor. No, that phone call didn't happen. And if he said it in that way, it was more of a man saying, I'm not talking to you anymore after this phone call. But to your point, Ryan, that happened in 2019, the whiteboard meeting. And even if I'll assume that M. Russell Ballard did have some kind of business connection that he knew about that was probably off the books and not really a great idea for an apostle to be endorsing and all of that stuff. What are the chances by 2023 that he still remembered? Like, he died a few months later. Like, can we really say that his brain was completely fully functioning, that he would even remember that enough to call Tim Ballard and say, Tim, do you remember the blessing that I gave you 10 years ago? He doesn't probably even remember his own grandkids' names. I'm just speculating here. But this is a stretch. It's all stretches. And the way that Tim uses his language, that like he was the one to bring up the old blessing, the old fulfillment of prophecy. It wasn't even me. I wasn't. But he said that, my best friend, because he remembered what's important to me, because he cares. It's his love language. And that didn't happen to him. It just didn't happen.
You know what I would really like to see enter the chat here is Brad Bauer and Elder Ballard's family. You know, Tim is throwing around the name of their father, grandfather, all over the place, making all sorts of claims. I would like to see, I think it's absolutely appropriate for the family to issue a press release to clear up some of these things. Because Tim is just, I mean, he's tarnishing the legacy of Elder Ballard left and right and dragging him down with his misdeeds. Tim's misdeeds, not Elder Ballard's misdeeds, but Tim's misdeeds is dragging down the legacy of Elder Ballard. And so I just encourage anybody that's part of the Ballard family, issue a press release, clear up some of these accusations because I don't believe that they're true at all. I've heard personally from a PR representative of the church that the denouncement to Vice News came straight from the top with Elder Ballard's full knowledge. So the family of Elder Ballard or the church PR department can completely settle that debate. And I hope that they do so. Like, please don't let this conspiracy theory just simmer and simmer and simmer for years on end with these unanswered questions. I know it's embarrassing for the church that they poured so much time and resources and the endorsement of apostle into this guy. Yeah, I mean, but that embarrassment is already happening. Like, we all know, we're seeing who he is. We're all embarrassed about supporting him. Like, I think people will look past and forgive the church for building this guy up as long as they come out and expose who he is and tell us what was the morally unacceptable behavior that you were alluded to in your press release. You know, he's just going to continue to be a bull in China shop, doing damage left and right, unless more people come forward to combat these allegations and these lies. And so I just would encourage anybody that has firsthand knowledge of this stuff to do that in a public way and come forward. Like the few of us that have, you know, the few of the courageous people, the women and a few others that have come forward early on, like they need some support. And please, like, put this guy away. Please just come forward, and for the good of humanity, you know, for the good of the Mormon church, you know, all of that.
Yeah, I feel like Candace Owens, where I need like a tip line. Like, if you know anything about the suspicious death of 80-year-old M. Russell Ballard, please write in and let us know. And shout out to Mormon Stories. What's up? Ryan and Kara and Ryan are my heroes. I read that dyslexic leak. If you guys don't know, I just did an interview last Monday on Mormon Stories. We did an amazing 3-hour presentation about Tim Ballard calling out the deep state church. I think it's really good. So if you want to watch something after this, I highly recommend that. All right.
Yeah, you did a really good job of in 3 hours kind of getting people up to speed on the last couple of years. So that if you want to start somebody that hasn't been following this, Kara's Mormon Stories interview is a great place to start, because it kind of goes back to the beginning and rewinds how we got to where we are and what Timmy is doing today.
Yep. Thanks for the endorsement, and thanks for the $20. Mormon Stories says, give these people some money. Appreciate that. All right. Should we get back into the video?
Yeah, there's more, sadly.
A lot of people are trying to argue with me about Candace Owens. I am not here to argue with you about Candace Owens. You guys are right. But in terms of the Charlie Kirk stuff, I am watching with bated breath. I will say that much. Okay.
It's about what the jaws of hell are going to look like. I don't think either of us. I don't think either of us suspected it would come from the very church that he represented, from the very servants who claim to be the voice of Jesus Christ. But sure enough, it was. As I explained in the upper room, what was going on in August 2023 was very significant. Sound of Freedom had made over $250 million. 100 million people had seen it. I just met with President Trump at Bedminster and his people. They asked me to run for the U.S. Senate seat being made available that was going to be in conjunction with President Trump running in the 2024 election. Also, and probably the most significant part of this was that Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, had come to me and said, what can we do? We saw the film, we want to do something. And I said, let's propose the Sound of Freedom Act, which will give moral authority to start with, to be able to expose 3 areas of deep, deep sin against children. 1, the trafficking going on the border. 2, satanic ritual abuse, which has its base, unfortunately, in Utah. And 3, the trafficking in the foster care system. So let's do it. And President Trump asked me to run for Senate, so I'll do that. We have the Sound of Freedom Act. We have the moral authority coming from Sound of Freedom. I went on the Sean Spicer show and said, I'm doing all these things. The next day I received a phone call saying, Tim, they're not gonna let you run for Senate. They're not gonna let you win. They're not gonna let you implement the Sound of Freedom Act. There's too much at stake here. And $10 million, he said, had been sent to destroy my life. I said, what will it look like? He says, I don't know, but it'll be a bag of bricks. We will deliver the rights. And
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Computer going off. He was just about to save all of the world when people said stop. Would you mind if I read a tweet from Damian Moore that describes the truth behind this? If you guys don't know, Damian Moore is a fantastic investigative journalist who has been working with Lynn Packer. If you guys know Lynn Packer's work on Tim Ballard, they work in concert with each other and both publish at AmericanCrimeJournal.com, which has been following Tim Ballard longer than Vice News was, let me tell you. So, Ryan, I don't know if you've even seen this tweet yet, but did that share to the screen? Perfect. Okay. So just to combat some of the claims that Tim just said about his Senate run and that there's the Sound of Freedom Act, that he was just about to do all these amazing things. So Damian Moore writes, take note, it takes Tim Ballard 5 seconds to spew a mountain of nonsense and an hour to debunk it. So true. Here we are. Stop amplifying his lies. They are all lies. This includes SRA, Kevin McCarthy, and the so-called Sound of Freedom Act. All of it is bullshit. This is all well documented and public record. Perhaps it's time to hold Tim Ballard's feet to the fire and demand proof before repeating his delusions. His credibility is destroyed. He is an unreliable witness. Taking anything he says at face value risks your own credibility. When dealing with victims of abuse, remember, perception is reality. Using Ballard's statements as if they were gospel is not only reckless, it's dangerous. The very quotes and screenshots you're citing are verifiably false. No wonder the LDS Church disregards Ballard's letter. If any of his claims were true, he's referring to the letter that Tim Ballard said, let me back in the church. If any of his claims were true, he could provide documentation, but he prefers for you people to take his word, counting on incompetence, the incompetence of most of his supporters. All right, so far, so good. Take the Sound of Freedom Act. Nonsense as an example. Not long ago, Tim Ballard learned that Alabama passed the Sound of Freedom Act, which he had nothing to do with and disavowed by its author. Recently, he discussed it on a podcast and, as usual, took credit for it. However, he did not mention SRA or expose any trafficking network. SRA only recently entered his vocabulary to appeal to MAGA evangelical audiences. Okay, so far, Ryan, I think you're dead on with the way that you've been describing his reason for mentioning SRA. So let's get the basic facts straight. 1, Tim Ballard did not hold a public hearing before Congress with Kevin McCarthy in 2023. He testified before 2 subcommittees on border security. 2, he did not mention SRA once. His testimony is publicly available via the House website and C-SPAN. All right, so everything that he just said is like, let's get to work on this. When we actually ask for the evidence of what Tim was talking about, he doesn't provide it. And then when he says that things did happen, we have counter evidence that it didn't happen, right? He's losing on both accords, okay? 3, there was no bill associated with his visit. The Sound of Freedom Act he now claims credit for emerged in 2024, drafted by Alabama State Representative Donna Givens, not Ballard. It made no mention of SRA. And the reality, Kevin McCarthy was not present. Ballard was invited by Representative Chris Smith, Republican from New Jersey, chair of the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee, to testify on Children Are Not for Sale, Global Efforts to Address Child Trafficking on September 14, 2023, 2 weeks to the day after women publicly accused Ballard of sexual abuse. Ballard appearance was politically timed. The GOP was waging a public campaign against DHS Secretary, did I say that? Mayorkas? And Ballard was gearing up to announce a Senate run to replace Mitt Romney. He pressured Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes to introduce him to Republicans, lobbyists, AIPAC, and the Heritage Foundation. I don't like those four very much, but I'll keep my opinions to myself. Will you introduce me to... Anyway, he may have a platform with the Heritage Foundation, but there's no verified relationship with AIPAC. Maybe not yet. The Sound of Freedom Act itself was inspired by the movie, authored and sponsored by Alabama State Representative Donna Givens, and signed into law April 24th by Governor Kay Ivey. Ballard had nothing to do with it. He was neither the inspiration nor present when the legislation passed. In short, Ballard perjured himself repeatedly before Congress. His testimony had nothing to do with the trafficking bill, and the Sound of Freedom Act is entirely separate from him. All claims tying him to SRA or legislative influence are fabrications. Okay. Well, that's the summary. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, he's right on. There was a Sound of Freedom Act that was brought forth by a senator, but the only thing that it does was increase the penalties for child trafficking. That's all it does. It was just an increase of the penalties from the bill but Tim had nothing to do with that. He wasn't in Congress. It was inspired by the movie, hence it took the title. Anyway, so he's weaving a narrative about what he was going to do if he wasn't thwarted. Like he was going to reveal that sexual ritual abuse was happening in the church if he wasn't thwarted. Mm-hmm. Yet my entire time with him, that was never even a topic of discussion. It was never even entered into this chat anywhere until after he lost his second appeal to get reinstated to the church. So I'm sorry. I'm just not buying it.
Not to mention he has a track record of taking credit for things that he wishes he could have done. Don't be like that. That's the villain in the movie The Italian Job, where he steals everybody's money and then he drives around and everyone's like, that was the car I was going to get. That was the thing that they were going to do. He's like, oh, I'll take one of those. I'll take one of those. He goes on a shopping spree and he picks up all the different little special interest of, sex abuse victims and is like, oh, you guys help them? Yeah, I'll put that in my shopping cart. I'll put that in my image. I'll put that on my website. I'll pretend that was my idea. He just, again, is just like a little entrepreneur of the victim scene and what he can get away with. And that's why we make this podcast, because these are victims that deserve protection, support, institutional support, which Tim Ballard would also vote against and not try to get people help, mental health or otherwise. But he wants victims for himself, but he doesn't have any intention of helping them. It's a story from start to finish, every turn of the way.
Yeah, well said. I want to point out a super chat that I saw from Paul Porter here. Thanks for the donation. I could really use a new microphone, but that would be awesome. Thanks for the support. But I also want to point out what he's saying. Feels like another charismatic abuser. My dad thought he was Joseph Smith in Reincarnated too. Now, I've heard multiple people state this. Paul, if you could reach out to Kara or myself in the email description, I want to hear more about that, because that is a really interesting tangent down this side rabbit hole that we're going down, is his delusions about possibly being that. So please reach out. And if anybody else knows or has heard or has seen documentation or emails floating around coming from Catherine alluding to that fact, then please pass it on to us, because those are some of the interesting, very relevant data points that we're gathering. As crazy as it sounds, there's documentation backing up that claim. So that's a subject that we're working on for a future episode that we will expose when we have something that we feel comfortable presenting. But thanks for the support, and thanks for bringing that to light. Reach out in the email, please.
You. Yeah, thanks for the super chats and the donations, guys. I also have other links to donate to Venmo. There's our Patreon. There's a donor box. You can do a monthly donation through donor box too. And take a moment to like and help the algorithm. Thank you for that. And we have some of our best, we're not done. I'm not wrapping up or anything. I'm just letting you guys know. We have some of our best content that we have been waiting to make for 2 years, that we're finally able to expose some things that we've been sitting on. And if you have not liked and subscribed to this channel, please do. And our our hard work is starting to pay off, that we're able to at least expose more, tell more of the story, and get justice for the victims of sex trafficking, the victims of Tim Ballard, alleged ones, doing all that we can to get those stories out. So financial support helps a ton. Thanks, guys. Okay. So I think that was pretty much the end of that video. And he just ended, by talking about his thwarted Senate run. Now, I guess we can go into the next clip that I have is the Mormon reaction. So, Ryan, we've been exchanging text messages and going back and forth about what we see in the comment section. People are interested to know what has been the Mormon reaction, from the start. Like, how do you think that the Mormon world, when he first got denounced, kind of reacted, and then how is what Tim Ballard is saying lately? How are people within the church shifting and turning on him?
Yeah, this is such an interesting development because there's been former colleagues and people that have worked at OUR and worked closely with Tim over the last 12 years. Some of them I knew from back in the day, some that I didn't, that have reached out to me in the recent last week or two. We've had conversations before, but they didn't feel comfortable coming forward publicly because of the fact that speaking out against Tim Ballard, because he's tied his name so closely to the church, and especially being Deseret Book's #1 author, speaking out against him also reflect badly on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I totally get that. And they don't want to, do anything that reflects badly on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I can respect that and fine. But however, with this new development of Tim coming out in full on rebellion and attacking the church and accusing the church of all this heinous stuff, that original position of all these people that were on the fence or not totally comfortable with speaking out against him, that's changed. And I've gotten multiple phone calls in the last 2 weeks of people that I knew that I've talked to over the last couple of years that now are feeling way more comfortable because he's attacking something they love, to use Tim's words. He's attacking. Now, I will say it's disappointing in some ways to me personally that the 5 women plus Bree Ryder that were sexually assaulted didn't get the support that they needed in the beginning because of the church element. However, it's okay as long as we could link arms behind exposing this guy for what he is now. Better late than never. Let me just put it that way. Better late than never. So that's been a completely major seismic shift in what I'm seeing in my own sphere of friends and family and people that I know. And so the ultimate backfire is that Tim's once supporters, or the people that were at least willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, are no longer doing so. And I think you've probably seen the same thing in some of the comments and the people that you're talking to too, right?
Yeah. So there's the people who have been close in Tim's life who know where the skeletons are in the closet, that are not afraid to speak out anymore. They feel like he's attacking something that they do love, even though he says that he's not. They are not that stupid. They see that he's calling the church out and they know what his crimes are. And I was like, all right, you've gone too far. It's time to expose you. There's people in those inner circle. And then if you go a circle out from that, there's, Mormon content creators like we're going to watch here from this channel. Who are seeing the grift for what they think that it is. And then there's just people who used to be on Tim Ballard's side. They thought he was saving kids. They thought he was a good representative of the church. And now they're like, this dude has obviously gone the way of a lot of the wackadoos of the church, who's still standing up for Chad Daybell these days. At some point, people got to jump ship. And this week is when Tim Ballard's trying to form his new alliance within Mormonism kind of backfired because the percentage of people who are still listening and buying this is fewer by the day. All right. So we're going to watch a clip here from this channel that a friend of mine sent me this video last night. And I mentioned that they do a little bit of a cameo of your old girl Kara here. So we're just going to play this and the guy does a great job at it. So Thank you, Mormon Matthew.
A man rises to prominence in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and in the community, only to be exposed as a sexual predator, using his position of authority, twisting church doctrine, and invoking the name of church leaders to justify and convince his victims it's okay. He's found out when his victims come forward, is excommunicated and publicly denounced by the church in the newspaper, and goes on to publicize serious false accusations and threats against the church in retaliation. The man I just described is John C. Bennett. Or is it Tim Ballard?
I taught him how to start a podcast like I did at the beginning of this one, with a description of one person and then misdirection. It's an old comedian's trick. Anyway, you'll learn a thing or two at the thenuancehoe channel. All right, back to the video.
All right, guys, you asked for it, so here it is. I went down a rabbit hole a couple weeks ago, one that I thought I left behind in 2023. It was the rabbit hole of Tim Ballard, former member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and subject of the movie Sound of Freedom. What I saw on my journey down this rabbit hole was really frustrating. See, I didn't just peruse opinion pieces on Tim Ballard, I refamiliarized myself with the allegations, looked at all the evidence that was submitted with the lawsuit since 2023, and then I took a deep dive into the comment sections of a couple videos on a fellow Latter-day Saint YouTube channel who did an interview with him recently. I watched all of Where's Timmy? The more I looked, the more concerned I became at the responses I was seeing. In a plot twist I didn't foresee, I found myself agreeing with Cara Burrell more than my fellow Latter-day Saint commenters on the friendly YouTube channel. And the more I interacted with these different viewpoints, the more I kept thinking about John C. Bennett.
Okay, so who John C. Bennett is not as important as knowing that I just got a shout out from this person I've never heard of, but I am still thank you so much. I'd like to thank all of you in the chat right now, all 229 of you, for being here with me. Thank you, Ryan. It's really such an honor to be featured and get the name of my podcast incorrect. Again, I'm just happy that any LDS person watches my channel at all. But where's Timmy? That's fine. We can roll with that. Everything in Mormonism gets a new name. All right. It's been baptized.
It's our own damn fault for picking a question to name our podcast after. Timmy did what? Like that's a question. Like, why do we roll with that? I don't know, but that's what we did.
That should have been the entire framework, Ryan. We have Timmy did what? That's the last one. Should be, where's Timmy? How is Timmy?
Yeah.
Who's Timmy?
Oh, we'll shift it. Once he goes to jail, that's what we'll do. Where's Timmy? That's the next iteration.
I want to have an air tag tracker on him at all times and just be like, where's Timmy? Still sitting in federal prison. Perfect. Okay. So John C. Bennett, he's going to make an analogy to John C. Bennett. It's interesting. I do love Mormon history. And again, Benjamin Park, who wrote American Zion, he also wrote another book called Kingdom of Nauvoo that goes into all the history of Joseph Smith, John C. Bennett, and the early church. It's really fascinating stuff. But just to summarize, John C. Bennett was the first mayor of Nauvoo when the church was getting started. And I think he was a physician. He came into town with some ideas about spiritual wifery and started to push his weight around. He was Joseph Smith's right-hand man. And then there's different accounts. If you listen to a more apologetic account, as this Mormon Matthew Bradrick fella might say, it's that once everyone in town heard about polygamy, they were outraged and they were like, absolutely not. That is not righteous. Get out of here, John C. Bennett. Shoo, shoo, shoo with you. But kind of the more truth is he was kind of a little bit too loosey-goosey with the rules and a little bit too open with his secrets, that it's like, keep it on the down low that we're doing this. So is Tim Ballard similar to John C. Bennett? Yes, sure. Is the better analogy maybe Joseph Smith? I don't know. I wasn't there. But that's the impetus of this Mormon Matthew Broderick making this point. And I think it's a good point that stands. But Ryan, your thoughts on the analogy, your thoughts on the video overall before I play the next clip? What do you got? Yeah,
I hadn't thought about J.C. Bennett in this context before he brought it out. And there are some parallels with, especially with the couple's ruse. J.C. Bennett was claiming that there was a happiness letter by Nancy Rigdon that he was using and other things that he was alleging was tied to Joseph Smith to justify him getting access to women. So there are some parallels there that are pretty interesting, that Tim's playbook with a couple of ruse actually could have been inspired by John C. Bennett, playing loosey-goosey with the rules and using the name of Joseph Smith as leverage for getting women to go along with his sexual misdeeds. I mean, that's a couple of ruses. That's what Tim was doing with using Elder Ballard's name, telling women that Elder Ballard approved of the couple's ruse, that he sanctioned it, that it's all okay. And there's multiple people, that not just the women that have come forward that have talked with me, that have heard personally Tim use doctrines like past mortal probations or multiple mortal probations, claiming that he was married to women in previous lives, Tom Harrison, but also using Elder Ballard's name to justify the couple's ruse. That's stuff John C. Bennett was doing as well. However, the analogy departs from John C. Bennett for the very fact that Tim is claiming to be a spokesperson for Jesus Christ, to be a watchman on the tower, to be receiving revelations from creepy voices in places, and taking signals from pictures falling off the walls. He's using all this spiritual manipulation stuff. John C. Bennett wasn't doing that. He just tried to out Joseph Smith for being a sexual pervert, whereas he claimed no heavenly manifestations to justify who he was. So in that regard, Joseph Smith more aligns with Tim Ballard in his divine mandate for who he is today. So, but I still respect the guy for drawing the parallels to J.C. Bennett, because there are some parallels there. But there also are a lot of parallels to Joseph Smith. It's just whether you believe the Brighamite history, that Joseph Smith was a polygamist and that was all kosher, God's will, above board, polygamy is a good thing, or if you believe the opposing view from the RLDS or historians like Benjamin Park, that Joseph Smith was just self-aggrandizing himself and using spiritual manipulation to get access to women under the justification of this phony revelation he called polygamy. So wherever you land on those two camps, yeah. But either way, the allegations of whether the religious manipulation of Joseph Smith was happening or is just religious manipulation by J.C. Bennett, those parallels are solid. And Tim is taking a page right out of Mormon history and implementing it right in front of us, and we get to watch it real time as if we were talking to somebody like the bad version of Joseph Smith or somebody like John C. Bennett. So that's cool. I appreciated his perspective on that.
I really do too. And to further add to the Joseph Smith analogy, is Tim not acting a lot like Joseph Smith did at the end of his life? Joseph Smith kind of lost his marbles towards the end. I made an entire YouTube video with John DeLynn and my friend Eve. It has 700,000 views right now on the old YouTubes about things people don't know about Joseph Smith towards the end of his life. He declared himself king of the world. He had his own militia, and he said that he's going like a lamb to the slaughter, that he'd not done anything wrong, and that the narrative we were raised with our entire life was kind of a whitewashed version of history, that the faith promoting version, that Joseph Smith basically didn't do any of the things that he was accused of doing wrong. I didn't know that he was even a polygamist growing up. You wouldn't have known that if you were in the church. And so there's just a similar rewriting of history when people are either caught or meet their demise or something, that they're scraping to the levers of power and how they want to be remembered. When it's you just don't commit so many sex crimes and keep your hands to yourself and try to really abide by the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we wouldn't have these issues. But the same demise and the same kind of ending in horrific fashion and freak out, I see more of a parallel with Joseph Smith. Not saying Joseph Smith is just the worst guy ever and a false prophet. I say that in other videos. This video is for everybody, and I'm just saying, John C. Bennett, that's fine. That's a good analogy. But yeah, along with what Ryan said, Joe Smith, like it's right there. It's right there in front of you guys.
Yeah, what's interesting is like there's a lot of answers. There's a lot of episodes in church history we don't know exactly what happened. You know, Emma Smith and Brigham Young were giving completely different versions of events. You know, and how do you figure out what the truth is? It's really, really hard to figure out where the nuance lies. However, in this case, everybody is seeing Tim firsthand. You can ask him questions on his social media, and he'll probably respond and see what his answers are. So this is, I don't know, for people that want to like dive deep into religious nuance and true crime. This is this is your golden opportunity. You can engage with Tim right now. He's not in jail. So he's issuing responses and stuff. Now, I wish we had Joseph Smith, John C. Bennett on social media back in the 1840s, clearing things up and look at that flame war going on, because it would answer a lot of questions. We don't have that, but we do have the comment section in this video, and we have the social media platforms of Tim Ballard. So yeah, you can do your research real time and draw your own parallels on whether he's a Joseph Smith figure or a John C. Bennett figure or some other religious fanatic claiming to be the Messiah.
Use your imagination. Don't let us stop you.
Yeah.
I like this comment too. Can't stop watching. It's a Mormon QAnon train wreck unfolding before my eyes. Thank you. And if you haven't hit the like button yet, that's not the one. Called out of his K-hole. Yep. Hit that like button. Thanks, guys. And did I get all of the super chats? I don't think I missed any. Oh, I missed this one. Thanks. $20. A few dollars towards Get Ryan a New Mic Fund. Thanks, mysterious Finnish person. And real quick, do you want to speak to this question? Because we sound like we're just two crazy sex trafficking fiends that we just love people being thwarted from saving kids. Ryan, do you want to just speak really quickly to the idea that Tim never saved any kids?
That's a hard one. That's a really hard one, because I'll give you an example of like the Columbia raid. So the Cartagena Columbia raid that was featured in his movie Operation Triple Take. That one, he organized an island sex party, advertised it on Facebook. A lot of people came to it. Kelly Suarez was one of the ones that came to it, and that was she said that she would invite people, and she ended up getting convicted of pimping, accepting money for other people being willing to engage in sex work because they're just coming to this party that sex was going to be happening at. However, in that raid, for example, the facts of the case that I've been presented with that I know, and there's some other journalists that have covered this. Red Pilled America is one of them. Yeah. Go find them out. They did a really good job at dissecting all of this. Is that all the people that came, none of them were under the age of consent. Most of them were over 18. And so there wasn't anybody there that was being trafficked. However, in Sound of Freedom, Tim presents that whole raid in the fictionalized version or the reenactment version as, you know, the children he shows are like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. The kids that went to that there's some that were between 14 and 17, but most were 18 and above. And so were they being sex trafficked? Well, in that situation, nobody was convicted of actual trafficking, meaning nobody was enslaving and trafficking the kids or the adults that were going there in the first place. And also, only pimping charges were brought against Kelly Suarez. So were there kids there that were being trafficked? Well, according to the authorities, they couldn't find anybody, and there wasn't any trafficking charges. There's pimping charges going on. So it's hard to say whether any of those kids were saved. Now, the other aspect of that is that Red Pilled America found that there wasn't any aftercare services being provided to the dozens of children that he claimed that were being saved. And so if there's no aftercare service providing, it was likely because there wasn't any aftercare services needed because nobody was being trafficked. So like in that case, we just don't know if any of those kids actually went to a better place. Now, in another situation similar to that, is in Haiti. You know, people are familiar with Tim going in and getting the orphanage owner that was alleged trafficking kids because she agreed to sell Tim a kid in sort of an under the table adoption type of situation. She was arrested, and all those kids that were from that orphanage were sent over to the OUR ran orphanage called Foyer des Sions, and ran by Giesno Marty and OUR board. And the people there have told me and others that the kids that were brought from the trafficking orphanage went to this orphanage and said that it wasn't any different, and they didn't see any evidence of those kids actually being trafficked. Now, in the movie, it's portrayed that they were saved from that woman and from the orphanage. However, there's no evidence that they were actually involved in trafficking. And then also a lot of the like beachcomber operatives that found people on the beach walking in, you know, in these places in third world countries, they were looking for, they go around the beaches and the tourist spots asking to get access to kids. If anybody had kids, they would sell. And then on some occasions, some people would bring forth either their girlfriend or one of their own kids and offer them up to as for sex to these operators. And then they would either be arrested or likewise. They thought that I asked some of them telling these stories if these people were involved in trafficking. And a lot of times their answer was like, we don't know. Honestly don't know. And they probably weren't, but Tim was creating a market in that area by waving money in front of people's face. And they would bring kids or they'd bring their girlfriend or something to be offered up in these sex parties. However, they don't know that they were in a trafficking ring prior to that. So these are the stories that I'm hearing firsthand from OUR operatives. And I think it would be, I don't want to say that Tim was never saving kids because I can't speak for every single situation. However, the claims of saving 7,000 kids, I have high suspicions that the vast majority of those were kids that were either not involved in trafficking until Tim got there, and then he created the trafficking situation and then rescued them from the situation that he created, or they actually weren't involved in trafficking at all and were just released back out in the community. Because we don't have reports of dozens or hundreds or thousands of kids in aftercare facilities going through rehab. There are some reports of that. And so I'm sure there are some kids that got taken from a bad situation to a better situation. And maybe they got some of the care that they needed. Maybe they got some of the financial resources they needed, and probably some good has been done. However, the focus of Tim, and from my perspective, OUR, was to present video footage of them in action so that they can have a fundraising movie to raise money for their organization. And it was a money endeavor rather than an anti-trafficking endeavor. But that's just my perspective on things from the people I've talked to. And you'd have to be trying really, really hard not to save any kids after 10 years of setting up all these operations, not to have any kids go from a bad situation to a better one. However, just the wholesale argument that we've encountered in all the operations, 7,000 kids and 7,000 kids were saved, that cannot be true from everything that I've heard. So it's a murky business. Now, the problem is OUR doesn't provide, and Tim has never provided any sort of verification of any of most of their operations and rescues. All they provide to the public is the movie, the documentaries, and Tim's word that he's saving kids. So what we're finding out now is that his word is worthless and he's lying through his teeth left and right. So it causes more and more suspicion to be placed back on those original claims of saving 7,000 kids. So
Yeah.
that's how I'd answer that
Yeah.
from my perspective. That's all I know. I can't say firsthand that no kids were ever saved. I can't say firsthand that any kids were saved. I haven't met those kids, but from the people I talk to, it's a big gray area. There's a big fog of war on what actually happened on these raids. But we do know that OUR discontinued doing these operations altogether because they were being denounced by actual trafficking, anti-trafficking organizations, by law enforcement, and they were proven to be ineffective, I think is how they described it. So if those operations Tim's was running were ineffective at saving kids, that means they weren't saving kids, or that the consequences were too high for the few kids that may have gone to a better situation out of that experience.
Yeah, consequences are too high. Thank you for that explanation. And just to add to that, what Ryan was describing about the raid in Colombia, if you think about the Sound of Freedom movie, Tim says that it's based on a true story and it's a combination of two true stories. And it's actually a combination of two places he went, but the actual facts of what happened, really, in my estimation, I'm going to say all of this allegedly, but I feel like what he did was participate in sex trafficking of women and children more than he fought it during the course of his career. So if you think of the Sound of Freedom based on his Colombia raid and his Haiti raid that Ryan just described, the Colombian raid was literally OUR paying for ads saying, come to this sex party, paying for buses, transporting minors and people above the age of 18, below the age of 18, teenagers, young adults, transporting people to a sex party that they paid for, that they rented the island for, that they're putting them in this position of something that they would not be there already, right? And then doing a type of sting operation that put Kelly Suarez, who is not any of the things that Tim Ballard claimed that she was, this Colombian woman who he says was a modeling agent, and that's how she snatched these kids and sold them into the Colombian drug lords into the jungle. That's not who Kelly Suarez is at all. Still used her name, doesn't matter. So he takes real life names, like proper nouns, and put them into his story. But effectively, he was trafficking those kids for his own, I don't want to say self-aggrandizement. I just want to say like to put himself on camera. Like he put people in positions of vulnerability so that he could prop himself up. And the same is true of what happened in Haiti. And the story that Ryan just described in Haiti, I did an entire little YouTube documentary video about it. And there is the director of these aftercare services at OUR, this guy named Jeff Frazier, and he was interviewed by Vice News. I have a quote that I have evidence for. People were wondering what I was talking about on Mormon Stories last week when I mentioned this orphanage where teenagers were being raped. They were having abortions done, and the way Tim portrays it in the movie The Abolitionist, in his documentary, that these kids were taken out of the hands of a sex trafficking organization, of a sex trafficking orphanage, and moved into this other orphanage, Foyer de Sion, run by Gardy Marty, this Mormon bishop of the area, Gardy Marty's father, Gesno Marty. That's sex trafficking. If they weren't being raped in one orphanage and you move them into your orphanage that is run so shoddily that they're being raped and having abortions, that's effectively sex trafficking, because now you're profiting off of those children being there. You're profiting off of their smiling faces and the rain coming down, and you're saying that they're all in a better place when you end your movies and everything is, yay, Tim Ballard, you saved those kids. That is definitively sex trafficking. And so whatever he did to save kids, it's absolutely canceled out. And then on top of that, the women that Tim employed at OUR that are simply there to try to save sex trafficked kids, and they themselves became sex trafficked for meeting Tim Ballard's sexual gratification wants and desires under the guise of saving children, under the guise that M. Russell Ballard okayed this practice, all the way to alleged rape. So if there was a sex trafficker that is in this situation, Tim is definitely on the side of the perpetrator, not on the side of the savior or hero. Just want to make that abundantly clear.
Mm-hmm. And he could be both at the same time. He could be, in some people's lives, a savior, and in other people's lives, a destroyer. Like, both things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, great question. Thanks for that. And I think I got one more super chat. $5. Thank you, Uncle Rustables. I need more of this Tim talk in my life. You mean, where's Tim? Where's Tim? Are you too active on X or Reddit on the subject? I need. Also, how long will Troy platform him? I'm a small amount on X and Reddit. But you have a Substack going now, don't you, Ryan?
Yeah. Started Substack. I have some Tim Ballard related content I'm putting up there. Also some other musings from my own personal life. It's Ryan Fisher AK78, I think. I don't know. I can't even remember.
We'll leave it in the description.
We'll put it in the description, and I'm also going to start posting stuff on my X account. So yeah, go to the description. Any links that are relevant, we'll put down there. Yeah, thanks for the support.
And I think Troy Abels, whose clips we've been playing on the show, I think he'll keep platforming Tim as long as he gets paid to. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has any scruples or morals. I don't know the guy, but
yeah, who knows?
All right. Okay. So I'm going to play another clip from this fantastically done video. I think this is the one I want. 3, 4.
Look at us. We're playing stuff from a pro-Mormon YouTuber, not to debunk it, but actually give them props where props are deserved. So look at us.
Smile on your brother, everybody come together, try to love one another right now. Okay. Tell me what stands out to this. So he describes John C. Bennett a little bit, and I kind of skipped over that. And now it's the video called Tim Ballard's False Dilemma.
Illustrate this. Like John Bennett, Tim Ballard held prominence in the community and ran in high circles in the church. He was vocal about his relationship with Elder M. Russell Ballard, and he found support in the public eye with projects like his anti-trafficking nonprofit OUR and his movie Sound of Freedom. To me and many other members, including prominent ones like Glenn Beck, Tim was kind of the picture-perfect Boy Scout hero, living his covenants and fighting evil. He wrote books about his faith, made his life in the spotlight a missionary opportunity, and to top it off, he had the looks of an action hero. He was cool. But things changed in 2023, right as Sound of Freedom was coming out. Tim Ballard had been under investigation for sexual misconduct at OUR, and the results of the investigation prompted a public denunciation of his morally reprehensible behavior by the church through news outlets, Vice being the first to report it, and then his excommunication from the church. Since then, more allegations have been made and lawsuits have been filed. Each of these lawsuits includes exhibits of direct evidence that, in my opinion, clearly shows that Brother Tim Ballard was acting in contradiction to covenants we make in the Lord's house. Guys, forget about his supposed mission to save children and ask yourself if you, as a married priesthood holder, can intentionally put yourself in a sexual situation with another woman and still be worthy to exercise the priesthood and attend the temple. And again, I'm not saying this to air out his dirty laundry or to judge him, but to point out the danger in the dynamic that it has created. The danger is in how he has responded to all of this.
So, your thoughts, Ryan?
Well said.
All right. Well, here's my problem. I got to start off by being a bitch first. The danger isn't in what do you say? Like his not saving kids kind of supposed mission. The danger is in how he's responding now. I think we're past the most dangerous part, unless one of us ends up murdered by Tim Ballard. Okay, maybe he still could be dangerous. I'm not discounting that. I think we're past the biggest part of the danger has really been actualized with Tim Ballard allegedly raping 2 women and sexually assaulting many more under the guise of saving children and with the expressed permission, allegedly, of a church apostle. I think we've already really got into the danger zone. The heat has already been turned up. So that's something that's when ooh, the danger is that now so you admit that this doesn't look good. A covenant-keeping man probably shouldn't, if you read the text messages, plain as day, tell his employees that they need to get a bikini wax before they go out on a mission, stuff like that. You understand that shouldn't be what a covenant-keeping man should do. But you're the real danger is now he's making the church look like it's infiltrated with satanic abusers. I think we all should rewind. Thank you, Mormon podcasters. Thank you, all the Mormons who have texted me and reached out, who know Tim Ballard and are on my side. But I just get the ick that how many women and evidence of rape does it take for people to really start to speak out? because the danger zone, a couple miles back.
Yeah.
That's my annoyance right now.
I feel the exact same way. I mean, like, I'm super glad that this guy, he went through the actual court documents, read the evidence, went through the text messages, threw those up there. They're absolutely disgusting and appalling. The grooming that Tim did with all these women, the
there's
religious
evidence of
manipulation.
him saying some of the nastiest things. He says, "Oh, that was my character, Brian Black." Bullshit.
Yeah. No, like it's disgusting and it's repulsive and it's, I mean, but what's disappointing, like I'm 100% with you on this one, that it took Tim attacking the church for people to go back and actually read the documents that have been out for 2 years and get their own opinion on what Tim was actually saying and give him a shred of doubt that maybe he's not who he claimed he is. You know, that should have happened. I think 5 women, 6 women, 7 women, 8 women, plus whoever was involved in the OUR internal investigation should be enough to warrant looking at all the evidence, going back in time, looking at all the affidavits and that have been presented, have been missed in court, and doing that at that time when these women have had their lives destroyed and have been victimized. That should have been enough motivation to look at it. But now that he's touching the sacred cow of the validity and priesthood of the Mormon church, that now they're like looking at all that stuff and giving it some credibility. That's, yeah, it's, I mean, I'm thankful that they're better late than never, but again, you know, I think they could have done better. I think we could have done better. We should have believed the women in the beginning and given them a benefit of the doubt that maybe what they're saying is true. Maybe what they experienced was really as horrific as they said it was. That would have been nice. That would have been nice.
Yeah, whether it's Tim Ballard's victims or Epstein's victims, I know that there's a lot of issues with the whole like Me Too movement that people talk about and like believe all women. People have had their problems with it in the past, but I just do think that is the side to err on is believing victims, especially when there is corroborating evidence and there's a pattern of abuse. We live in a very sick culture that can look at Tim Ballard and say, he looks like a cool action hero. That guy, he looks like, what's the name of the kid from Goonies who's like, our time down here, you know, the one that was in Stranger Things, that, and the guy with the lisp, there's that famous actor. That's who Tim Ballard looks like. He looks like the lispy guy from 50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore, who takes steroids, screaming and angry all the time. I don't know what the people are drinking in their water in Utah, but my water does not think that guy looks like a cool action hero. No, like people are way too believing that the straight white guy is some moral authority on brown people suffering in another country and what qualifies as a hero, not asking any follow-up questions, and then so doubtful of victims of these men. It's I have no, it's a little topsy-turvy. So now do you have something to respond to that, or should I read another?
Yeah. Well, I want to respond to Ocean Mikey's comment.
We are thinking in sync. Yeah, go ahead.
We are. I know. He says, I've met kids Tim have saved. I used to be a volunteer for his organization. Don't you find it funny when he decides to run for office, the allegations come out the next day? Yeah, that I've heard this over and over before. And Tim has echoed this, that it was a political hit job. However, the timeline of events on when the allegations came out were after Tim first committed sexual assault, allegedly. Second, the women brought these concerns to OUR and they were marginalized and swept under the rug and pushed aside. And only after those things happened, then the allegations came out. I can say firsthand from being involved, I've been involved with the lawyers with the litigation because I went down to Columbia and testified. And I've been involved with not with some or most of the women I've met that have been involved in this. And I can tell you there is zero political motivation. Like if there was political motivation behind this hit job, then his political career is done. Why is it still going on? Why haven't we all just faded into the background and say, all right, mission accomplished. Tim's no longer going to run for Senate. We can all return to our day jobs. It's not about that. It's about stopping a predator. And those allegations came forward because that was right after Tim committed those alleged crimes. So I just want to put that out there, but I appreciate that Tim wants you to believe, Ocean Mikey, that it was a political hit job because it absolves him of responsibility for his own actions. And I would also point out that OUR conducted an internal investigation and they outed him. Do you think that OUR, whose board was mostly made up of his family members, were also trying to take Tim out politically? No, but I can understand on the surface why would you think that, because of the timing of it. But it has nothing to do with politics. It's that this guy was continuing to gain power. He hurt people. He stepped on people's heads and crushed them on his way to get power. And a handful of courageous women stood up and said, this has to stop. This has to stop. And they wanted to put a stop to it. And they came forward for absolutely no benefit to themselves, no benefit to the politics of Utah. They couldn't care less about that. I couldn't really care less about whether Tim was in the Senate or not, but I do care about a predator gaining more power and influence, not only in corrupting the attorney general of this state, but then becoming even more powerful, more influential. Yeah. And so a handful of regular women who are hairdressers, soccer moms that were victimized by him came forward, but I assure you it had nothing to do with politics.
Yeah. And Tim has no evidence that Trump asked him to run for Senate and that that was really his intention. It could have just been something he was kicking around. He's already lied about so many things. Like we talked about, the Sound of Freedom Act had nothing to do with him. So based on that alone, in addition to everything else, Tim is a liar. Okay. I don't know what the kids that he says that he saved. I will give him the benefit of the doubt and hope that he did. And those kids that you met were really taken out of terrible situations and put into better ones because Tim Ballard was there to save them. Congratulations for that. But when it comes to Tim lying and trying to say that everyone's out to get him, that is his MO. So the Senate run idea, that's literally like saying I was you can't break up with me because I was just about to buy you a really expensive gift. I was going to buy you a really expensive gift, but you broke up with me and now I guess I can't get you that gift anymore. It's like, you're only saying that because I'm breaking up with you. Like the reinvention of the timeline in the history is the thing Tim Ballard loves to do again. And again, to Ryan's point, OUR, spring 2023, internal investigation. They realized too many inner allegations of sexual misconduct. Tim is a powder keg. They need to get rid of him. And then comes the church. And then all the way in late September, that's when the Senate run things happen. So not to mention, you wouldn't even want Tim to be your senator. Who would want Tim to be your senator? Because all this was coming out. And I got to reiterate Ryan's point. That was one of the best points I've ever heard you make, Ryan. And you make a lot of good points. That if that was true, if people are just out to throw $10 million at him like a bag of bricks, like he says, and thwart his Senate run and all of that, then why are me and Ryan here? Why are so many people defected from his inner circle and his friendship? It's because we all want to take down this con man and this grifter because we all see through it. Like, well, why don't we just wrap it up and say, okay, we got him to not run for Senate. We can all go to bed now. Like his crimes haven't ended. His lies haven't ended. He's moved from organization to organization. He's still out there fundraising. He's still out there denying and the allegations from his rape victims, alleged rape victims, and smearing their name. So if he wanted to just call it a day and disappear from the public eye, that'd be one thing. If he's still out there lying, we're still out there needing to combat it. What more could you possibly want? Okay. Thank you for the question. And I will get back to watching the clips that we were watching. Remember how we were talking about clips once upon a time?
Yeah, we were doing something there.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with us on this live stream. Everyone, if you haven't hit the like button, it's super easy. It's right there. And the subscribe button right next to it. You can't miss it. I'm getting absolutely dying of starvation soon, but Ryan, you still have more time to go?
Yeah, I have got Kit Kats from Japan from my friend Brent in all sorts of weird flavors. And he also gave me some shredded octopus I'm not going to touch this stuff, but I got all these Japanese snacks, so I'm good for a while.
Wow. You're cooler than me. I just have literal kefir is what I drink during the day. And I don't think people want me drinking liquid yogurt on camera. So I'm staying starving for you guys. All right.
Well, if you were here, I would share with you this this dried scallop.
Yeah, I'm fine.
And yeah, you're good. You're good. I'll stick with the Kit Kats.
All right. So now Mormon Matthew Broderick is going to talk about the LDS response. And
broadcasting a short docuseries to clear the way for their rescue missions. It's called Backfire, the excommunication of Tim Ballard. Now, like I said, this is going far and wide. You have a choice, okay? You can continue to think that I'm attacking something you love, when in fact, I really am attacking something you hate, okay? That has infiltrated something you love.
Not attacking something we love, but attacking something we hate that has infiltrated something we love. Now, back to the dangerous part about this whole thing. Remember how I said he's creating a false dilemma for you, that if you reject his behavior, you're actually rejecting the truth. Never mind that this is a theme for him and John C. Bennett. Their actual immoral behavior that started this drama involved invoking church leaders' names and supposed approval to advance their sexual agenda with women around them. The resulting encounters were thus probably more consensual than criminal, and seemingly approved by the church's leaders and doctrine, at least to their sexual partners or victims. But now he's using a similar tactic in retaliation. Because the evidence against him, at least in terms of immoral behavior, never mind criminal activity, is strong enough, he has to create a conspiracy theory that absolves him, and it has to implicate the church in some way to explain why things have turned out the way they have. So first, he says that his excommunication was invalid, and it was somehow driven by rogue church employees who are infiltrated by the deep state, unbeknownst to the prophet and apostles. Any attempt to appeal is blocked or held up in bureaucracy, and readmittance by baptism is, of course, unnecessary because the excommunication was invalid in the first place. Second, he has to assign a motive for this kind of thing. The motives he's chosen are political bribery and covering up ritual satanic abuse. These work very well with at least two audiences. Evangelical Christians who are uninformed about the church but tend to see us as some sort of evil cult, and believing Latter-day Saints who are on the lookout for secret combinations in the last days. Very clever. And the way he pitches it to Latter-day Saints is by pushing his interpretation of last days scripture. That yes, the church is infiltrated, but we knew this would happen. And don't worry, it's not the apostles, it's just the deep state in the church office building, which also might include the apostles. Oh, and if it's concerning to you that the church is infiltrated with the satanic deep state, it shouldn't be, because only the truest institutions are infiltrated with evil. The more infiltrated it is, the more true it must be.
Isn't he so succinct? Good job. I told him. He learned everything
Well said.
he knows from us.
I know. He's gunning for your job. He wants your seat.
Ferris Bueller has not taken a day off. He is studying his Tim Ballard lore from us too.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's succinctly laying it out there. And personally, I think it's a little bit more fun with following up that point with jokes about cockroaches and ice cream. But you have to watch our show to get that. All right. Anything you want to say so far?
Yeah. Yeah, that brand of humor is only found on the Coverups channel. So you're safe. Your job's safe. Nobody can do what you do.
He has great lighting.
He does. Yeah, his lighting is great. He does a good job. It's just so refreshing and warms my heart to have active pro LDS people like himself see things for what they are. You know, because I know when you and me started, it seemed absolutely crazy that we were going to devote so much time and energy to this guy and this scandal that was probably just going to fade away. But we're like, no, Tim's not going anywhere. You don't know what kind of monster this is. And so this is very validating and for me personally and for us and that it's taken a couple of years before people like him have come around, but at least they're coming around and seeing it for what it is. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Yeah.
It also warms my heart. And I am some might call an ex-Mormon content creator. I have been the nuance host since the beginning. And if ex-Mormons are acting stupid, I want to call them out. And if Mormons make a good point, I want to acknowledge that. So I don't think that just because people have left the church, they're automatically smarter, or just because people are in the church, that they're automatically dumb. That kind of opinion is not something that you will hear on the Nuance Hoe channel. So it does make me happy that somebody who has a platform is kind of being like, hey guys, I looked at the evidence and this is the false dilemma that Tim Ballard is presenting. It's really important to get that message out because very few Latter-day Saints are going to take the time to investigate it the way that this Matthew Broderick character has. And getting that message out makes our job so much easier. Now, hold hands, skip into the sunset. Okay.
Yep.
If this isn't making any sense, it's not my fault. This is the version of the story that he's putting out. And it clearly lumps the church in with everything going wrong in his life and pits it against his all-righteous cause of saving children. See, if you don't agree with Tim, you must agree with abusers. And if you agree with the church, then you're siding with the deep state that has infiltrated it. So the only way to be on the side of truth is to side with Tim and believe that the Lord's church is so thoroughly infiltrated by the deep state that even the apostles are in on it, covering up systemic ritual satanic child abuse and standing behind wrongful excommunications of anyone trying to expose it. This tactic seems obvious when laid out like this, so I was surprised at how many people in the comment sections of these interviews with Tim Ballard were happy to believe these terrible things about the church before believing that Tim could ever have broken his temple covenants, especially in light of the evidence of Tim's behavior that's publicly available with the lawsuits that were filed. And wait, I can already hear the comments from pro-Tim Ballard LDS members and from anti-Tim Ballard ex-members. He's just like Joseph Smith. Ex-members who don't support Tim Ballard see him as another iteration of Joseph Smith in all the worst ways. A fraud who used religion to advance his sexual agenda, leading a group of gullible people from grift to grift. Believing members of the church who still support Tim Ballard liken him to Joseph Smith in positive ways, sincerely doing God's will, and wrongfully accused by all kinds of people because Satan is trying to bring down his work. Tim Ballard knows this. He explicitly draws this same comparison in his officially published accusation against the church. But guys, from my point of view, he is not a modern-day Joseph Smith. He's a modern-day John C. Bennett. Remember, it's not real. The dilemma. It isn't real. You can believe in saving kids and reject Tim Ballard's immoral behavior. You can believe that the church rightfully excommunicated him and that there were some things about the public denunciation that felt off. You can even believe that he shouldn't have been excommunicated at all and believe that the church is still true. But I don't see a scenario where the church is both systemically participating in and covering up ritual satanic child abuse at the level of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles and the Lord's only true and living church that he guides through living apostles. Tim Ballard is just a brother who went astray and needs some help. He isn't the only person who can save children.
I really liked everything you said until that last part.
Yeah.
That was all good. I give you almost flawless points. I wonder if he genuinely believes the nuance of which he speaks in that statement, because you're really holding back with the language that could be used there. Like, he's just a brother who went astray. I'm sorry. No, when you read the evidence and you are credibly accused of rape, if this was your daughter, Matthew Broderick, Mormon Matthew Broderick, and this is what, like, your daughter had some kind of like rapist or something, and would you say that young gentleman he was a fella who went astray? He went astray. Nope. There are stronger words in my vocabulary that I can't say on YouTube or I'd get kicked off for what that is. But this is the inclination of people within systems of power to keep amplifying and believe the voices of other men like them at the cost of victims, of women, of people without power. Like, it sickens me. So I don't want to just make this a video saying like, oh, Mormons are kind of coming around and they're seeing the lies of Tim Ballard like we're seeing it. I also want to call it out from a systemic issue that, like, sex trafficking is mostly elite men. Who are the other ones believing each other instead of victims in the situation? It's other powerful white men in this country and in this religion. And until you realize that and humble yourself a little more But like the way that the way that men talk amongst each other as this type of boys club, it just sickens me.
Mhm.
It just sickens me. This is not what we would want for our daughters. This is not how we would talk about it. Absolutely no.
Yeah, I really appreciate Ferris Bueller's like a willingness to say that Tim Ballard can both be a savior of children and morally reprehensible, or that that two things can be true at the same time. However, he fails to recognize to bring that nuance reasoning full forward into his own belief system, which is that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can both be inspired by God and be doing good things, and also protecting pedophiles or protecting perpetrators and covering up sexual abuse that's happening with its congregations. You know, both things can be true. So like, I really appreciate his willingness to acknowledge the nuance of that two things can be true at the same time, and they're not mutually exclusive, but somehow that logic doesn't apply to the current membership and leadership of the church, that there could be some leaders doing good and some leaders covering up really bad stuff. So I'd encourage them to like be open to taking it one step further and being open to things like that. Because if you're not open to that, then you're going to turn a blind eye to anything that comes towards you that disrupts your worldview, that the church is led by God, that it's the prophets cannot do anything wrong, and that that people aren't actually harmed within the church, which we know is not the case.
Yeah. Very well said. All right. And his final message for us is,
he isn't the only person who can interpret the scriptures about the last days.
Yep, that's all I got. Sorry. And then I ended it there. Sorry, I forgot. I'm not a very good podcaster sometimes, guys.
Well, hey, it's live.
It is live. And he's not the only one who can interpret the scriptures. I like his point, though. He's not the only one who can interpret these scriptures or the theology. He's not the only one who can save kids. But that is what Tim Ballard kind of wants you to believe, that thousands of kids are being put through hellish circumstances or being slaughtered all over the world because of the church's false statement against him. And he would have saved those kids, but now he can't. Yeah, that's the myth that he's built up, but people are seeing through it, and I'm thankful for that. Now, I'm going to move to what I hope you've all been waiting for, is the crotch rot segment. So, I read some posts.
People have been waiting for this. Like, that's how you hook people by.
We're here. We're queer, and we want to hear about Tim Ballard's crotch rot.
It's not clickbait, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is intense. When I saw this, I was like, can I go live right now? So I'm putting it 2 hours and 15 minutes into this episode, but this is fascinating. So I trust Damian more with my life. He has been a journalist on this forever. And this is the sources that have been close to him. I would say Ryan and I have probably some overlap in the sources that Damian Moore has and some different ones. But when I finish reading this, Ryan, you tell me what has corroborated this kind of evidence. Okay. So he wrote November 7th, Tim Ballard finally realizes he was excommunicated from the LDS Church 2 years ago. Let me begin with this. 2 individuals close to Tim Ballard and his family reached out to me a couple months ago, quite literally in tears, begging me to ease off because, as they put it, Tim had lost his shit. I promised them nothing. They pleaded only that I listen, as he was at the breaking point. So I listened. Their message, when stripped of its varnish, amounted to this. While Ballard is on the offensive, spinning lies, trying to defame and ruin others, he is also, in their view, unraveling. The implication was unmistakable. Tim is coming apart, and someone is going to get hurt. His friends and relatives are now doing the rounds, attempting to sue the very people he's attacked, as though the world at large is somehow responsible for Tim's deteriorating mental state. One has to ask, why go so far as to reach out to the supposed enemies of Tim Ballard? Why the sudden diplomacy? Because he is terrorizing them. The pressure is not on Tim Ballard. It is on those orbiting his family, friends, and anyone within blast radius. Instead of urging him to towards professional help, a sabbatical from social media, or the modest sanity of a bath and sobriety, they seem to expect everyone else to inhale and exhale his delusions as gospel. But here is the unavoidable fact. Tim Ballard cannot escape the fantasy of Tim Ballard. Full stop. Woo! Love it. Damian Moore, absolutely fire. Okay. No one else is to blame. His victims, the media, the LDS Church, Cinemark, or any other convenient villain. His family is not responsible either, with one exception. Catherine, his ever faithful enabler. Now, Catherine, a lot of people discuss, is she a victim of this? Is she an enabler? Just want to pause before I read what he says about Catherine to just go, holy smokes. It's so fascinating. If this is true, that his own inner circle of family have to deal with the blast, have to deal with his fallout, and everyone with eyes can see that Tim needs to go away for a while and stop blaming everyone else. Thoughts so far?
Yeah, it's this is actually really sad to me because I was close with him, and I believe this. I've seen him get into this mental state of anger where all logic in his brain gets shut off and he starts attacking everybody around him. I've been the recipient of some of that anger on our tours in really embarrassing, humiliating ways on our bus. And I actually feel for his family in this situation that they're dealing with the fallout of that kind of delusional anger. And I mean, it's well documented in psychological fields that when anger takes over your brain, the logic part of your brain shuts down and you don't make rational decisions. And I think that's been on full display ever since he was excommunicated.
Yeah.
So it's actually like really sad to me that the person that I knew and loved, that I was friends with and for so long has ended up in this place. And I'm not ashamed to say that I loved him, that he was close to me and we were close, and because we were on a crusade to do something good, really big. I mean, he makes a big deal about Celeste Boris saying that she loved him too. Well, I can say that, I loved him also. I love the crusade that he was on. I love the things that we wanted to be accomplish in the world. We were young and ambitious and wanted to, little Mormon missionaries in the white shirts and tie, want to go out and change the world for good. There's nothing wrong with that. And so it's just sad to me that somebody that I knew and loved and cared about, and on some levels still do today, has ended up in such a deplorable situation and is a threat and a danger to the people around him. But I believe that's what's happening. I have no reason to doubt Damian's not telling the truth about this situation. And I think we can see that it's probably true, and everything that he's displaying, this manic episodes of these rage rants that he's going on.
He's unwell.
Yeah, he's unwell.
Yeah. Thanks for that insight.
Yeah.
Rye the guy, thanks for the $5, said, sounds like he's holding his family emotionally hostage to me. That's some unrighteous dominion, for sure.
Yeah, definitely unrighteous dominion. But I think Damian was going into Catherine's role in this. And that's ultimately, I really think if anybody's going to save us from Tim Ballard, maybe it'll be Catherine. It'd have to be her. Like pray for Catherine to have the strength to right this ship. I know that she's a participant and guilty in propping this up and is responsible for this situation heavily, probably more than second only to Tim. But maybe there's a glimmer of hope that she will snap out of his delusions that he's been feeding her, or that she's in. I don't know.
I don't know if they're going to threaten her church membership next, and maybe she'll have to take a side and they'll get broken up. But yeah, let's read what Catherine is all about. Talks about Catherine, his ever faithful enabler. This is the same Catherine who stood by her husband after the Utah crime lab found his semen on another woman's panties. skirt, yeah, and an item submitted not by a suspicious spouse, but because it was evidence in a criminal sexual assault investigation. I've been told repeatedly that Catherine is as much a victim as anyone, but the facts say otherwise. Catherine Ballard knew that her husband was accused of sexual assault by a fellow parishioner and under investigation by the LDS Church, that donor money from OUR was funneled through a constellation of nonprofits and for-profits, only to be siphoned into Tim's for-profit venture, Slave Stealers LLC, via donations, ghost purchases, and conveniently layered transactions, that Tim used donor money to tithe to the LDS Church, and that his supposed personal contributions were, in reality, paid by unwitting evangelicals, Catholics, and anyone else generous enough to believe in his crusade. That Tim fabricated child rescue stories out of whole cloth, no victims, no traffickers, no police reports, no court records, nothing. That he paid actors to portray traffickers on camera and even paid others to pose as police officers. In short, Tim Ballard did not merely lie about his work. He constructed an entire theatrical universe in which he was both protagonist and savior, and those closest to him are now left to manage the fallout of the fiction he refuses to leave. Operation Underground Railroad is one of its more theatrical displays of virtue, would donate money to local law enforcement under the pretext of filming a promotional video, SWAT teams in tactical uniforms, doors kicked in, the choreography of Justice in Motion. The footage, however, was not merely publicity. It was later paraded before donors as evidence of Tim Ballard and his crusaders personally rescuing children from the clutches of traffickers and pedophiles. When pressed to release this supposed proof, Ballard so quick to publicize his piety, refused to show the video at all, leaving one to wonder whether the performance had ever been meant for anything beyond the faithful checkbook of the credulous. Tim bribed judges to get warrants in Haiti to raid orphanages under the ruse that it was a child sex trafficking operation, despite the fact these were not tourist areas and no evidence of child trafficking. Carlos Bristol was tortured under her husband's orders. These are more Haiti examples. She knew there were no arrests, let alone convictions for people to claim bust and arrest. They stated that Tim would go 2 or 3 weeks without bathing. These are the family members, okay? They described the smell as putrid. Tim had crotch rot, and there were blisters and sores in and around his crotch and thighs that became infected. His drug use was out of control. What drugs? Ketamine, cocaine, and painkillers. Same thing everyone else has been saying for years. Now, it's interesting that Damian Moore, as a reporter, is saying these things, because if this was untrue, just like Tim's like, I can't say anything that's not true because this will all come out in court. If any of this is untrue, it would be very interesting for Tim to try to go after Damian Moore and Damian to prove all of this right in court. Interesting, right? So I'm gonna take what he has to say here, because he has a longstanding history of good journalism. Same thing everyone has been saying for years. They went on to say that Tim was out of control and that he had violent outbursts and made threats to kill people. I asked whom he threatened to kill. They said people he believes are his enemies, people at the church, government, and, the others. Maybe a little bit of us. We really are hoping to get some cameos. Who do you want to play you in Sound of Freedom 2? Because that's...
I don't know, somebody better looking, and
everyone leave in the chat who should play me if we had an infinite budget. Who should play me and who should play Ryan? I think like a blonde Aubrey Plaza would do a fine job.
Oh yeah, I can see. Yeah, Aubrey Plaza, she could totally pull off a Cara Burrell really nicely.
Mm-hmm. And a Ryan, I'm feeling like a bearded Matthew Broderick, but younger. Just kidding.
That dude's old now. He's way older than me.
All of the actors that I can think of are too old, but somebody bearded, anyone will do. Ultimately, this individual said to me and tried to lay a guilt trip on me. We're afraid Tim will kill himself. Maybe his family believing that he's saving them. Unbelievable, absolutely ridiculous. Tim is trying to bully everyone, including the LDS Church, Cinemark, his critics, women sexually assaulted, raped, and bullied. Notice how Ballard's inner circle is trying to guilt trip and shift the burden of responsibility of Tim Ballard's instability, his violent outbursts, chemical consumption, and behavior. The people in his orbit are forced to play along and live out his delusions. So true. then he is a bully. Then he is bullying them and tormenting them. They are in fear so much that they ask, I think, everyone to play along instead of doing the right thing. Tim needs to take a bath. He needs to get off social media. He needs to go to rehab. He needs a mental health professional. If they feel they are in danger, call the police. Ultimately, Tim needs to take responsibility for his actions, his many crimes, children he has lied to, behavior, betrayals, and misconduct. Then he needs to answer questions about the 2 OUR operatives that had no experience and were supposed to be working for OUR, who they thought were working with Haitian authorities. Both men were murdered. He needs to answer for Carlos Bristol, apologize for everything, the lies, and the smearing his name. Tim is finally realizing that the ruse is up, and he is desperately trying to gain relevance in today's world. Mic drop, Damien.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
Yeah.
So that is, and then the one other thing that I wanted to show, back to this one.
While you're finding that, I just want to point out that when I originally did my affidavit for the Kelly Suarez case, submitted to the, one of the things that I testified under oath there was that the aim and goal of Elder Ballard's vision for Tim's career and Tim's own personal ambitions was to reach evangelical America.
Yeah.
That crowd is so much bigger than Mormons. And right now, if you look at just like who's in office, they're running the country. And so evangelical America is a base that Tim and Elder Ballard wanted access to so bad.
Totally.
And they tasked me with making a TV show to try and do that. And so now what we're seeing is like he's still trying to pivot and get that crowd on his side. Like what that Matthew Broderick said was spot on, where he's trying to appeal to evangelicals and fringe Mormons that don't care about the excommunication. He's still going after that base, that donor base, that funding source of evangelical Christianity. And so I warned about that over a year ago, when he was like still in good or when he was still, Mormon several years ago, and it just holds true today. So it's validation, and people are waking up to that. So I appreciate people recognizing that you can't disassociate him from his funding ambitions. And evangelical Christianity is who he's aiming for. That's why he's wearing the Jerusalem cross, the Pete Hegseth cross on his hat. That's why he's using all this language. That's why he's using the name of Jesus Christ in just everything that he's saying. He's like trying to cue in on to evangelical Christians. Jesus Christ, that's who I'm working for. Follow me, that kind of thing. So
yeah. Exactly. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to show in this episode, or have we
well, I thought we should probably play us off with that rap song that I sent you, but is there something before that you wanted to cover?
Yeah. And just in terms of the Mormon response, maybe we'll have to do some more videos on that later. Oh, and I also want to talk about the DA thing real quick. So I just grabbed this from his comment section. People are really confused. What's going on? Somebody said on the comments on Facebook, so are you still in the business of rescuing children, or are you just trying to clear your name these days? Because I kind of miss the days when it was all about rescuing the children. And if you go to his Facebook, he would be like, wow, you're really just ranting about how this church wronged you. And the reason why people followed you is not quite evident anymore. So somebody responded, apparently it takes some fighting for yourself in order to continue fighting for others. And that is unfortunately a game that culty, manipulative narcissists have to play. And so I was just joking around on Instagram the other day about, like, imagine if Jesus was like vlogging about how he has to make like a 4-part YouTube documentary series because the Pharisees keep telling lies about me and I can't heal anybody right now. Simon, get out the ring light. I can't be expected to heal people at a time like this because the Pharisees are spreading lies and it's giving betrayal. They're just like a bunch of little bitches. So imagine if Jesus was just like, I couldn't possibly be asked to perform a miracle until I'm done advocating for myself. Like, has anyone even asked how I'm doing? Imagine if Jesus was of that same type of narcissism. It would be pretty funny. So
That would be.
The amount of people in the comments though that are turning on to him are large. However, now at the same time, the news of the week that I didn't want to come out with right away because it's not what exactly you think there is. This makes it look like all of the charges, everything against him has been swept under the rug and it's all done. And he's out of the woods now. But that's not the case. But the latest news is Salt Lake DA declines to charge Tim Ballard after sexual assault report. And basically Sam Gill talked about how he's grateful that the women came forward, but the prosecution would need more evidence to remove every reasonable doubt for a jury that he is guilty of sexual assault. And my spidey sense just basically says, you have a jury in Utah. One of the main thrusts of the prosecution's argument is gonna have to be about Tim being emboldened by the church, about Tim's theology with the church. You can't disconnect Tim's actions from his spiritual and theological beliefs with the LDS church. So do I think that this is the right choice? Absolutely not, to not proceed with prosecution. However, we've known since the beginning that if Tim is up against a jury of his peers in Utah, it probably will be a majority Mormon. And no matter what comes out in the evidence, it'd be very difficult for a majority Mormon jury to convict him, because to convict him is to convict the LDS church, is what I would say. Your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's it's a very, so Sim Gills, he's a politician. Like, let's just call it for what it is. He's a politician. And for him to advance this case forward and actually send it to court, then all of the evidence of the spiritual manipulation, all of the evidence of the collusion between Elder Ballard, Brad Ballard, and Tim, that all built Tim up into this cult-like figure, into somebody that was this righteous crusader that had the awe and inspiration and gravity of somebody that was well respected and revered in Utah, would have to be on full display. Precisely. Followed by what he did with that, which was use that to manipulate women into getting access to them sexually. And so the embarrassment to the church and their role in this would be on full display, and all the information would come forward in a very embarrassing, revealing way, and probably a lot of stuff that we don't know about, because witnesses would be called. Doug Anderson probably would get called to the stand, and Elder Ballard, if he was alive, and if not Elder Ballard, possibly other general authorities, because Tim was in with those people. And so to refute, like, or Sean Reyes would get called to the stand. Exactly. And so
it would flip
by advancing
the institution in Utah upside down.
Flip it out. It would blow up Utah. I mean, just to advance this case to the courts, to where a jury could actually hear it and deliberate through the evidence. So I see this as Sim Gill isn't refusing to press charges because of lack of evidence against the prosecution for the women, the sexual assault. He's likely refusing to advance this case because of all the evidence that implicates all the people around him. And that would actually absolutely blow up Utah. And he's a politician. He knows that. Yeah. And it's just absolutely disgusting that politics are going to silence sexual assault survivors in this situation. And, but I mean, what do you expect? There's too many powerful people involved, just like the Epstein list. There's too many powerful people involved, not for them to execute influence into the politicians that hold the key to revealing their involvement in whatever pedophile ring Epstein was involved in. So it's a really similar situation, and it's really disappointing. I just feel my heart goes out to the women that are sexual assault survivors and are being not allowed to have their day in court, not allowed to express their testimony because of powerful people and the politics of that in Utah. If that's the case, that's just my opinion, but that's what it looks like to me. Like, if at the very least, give them a day in court, give these women who have been abused and used and victimized a day in court and hold Tim accountable. Like, at least, like he's saying that the juries likely wouldn't convict and stuff. Give them a chance. Let's see what happens. At least give them a chance. You know, that's what I say. So I got zero respect for Sim Gill, especially after this. He's just a politician playing a politician's game in the state of Utah.
Yep. I think you're dead on, unfortunately, but there are several other lawsuits and cases that are going to be moved through the court system. It's a meat grinder. It takes a while, but we will keep you updated on everything else. He's absolutely not out of the woods yet. Tim still has multiple accusations from women. There's also different jurisdictions, different countries, different cities in the country that are investigating Tim right now. So at any moment, a different, jurisdiction in a different place could try to bring charges against Tim Ballard. So
yeah, that was just one. There's several of the women have been victimized in multiple counties and multiple states. And so he's dismissing this one instance with this one woman, is my understanding. I don't know exactly which one he was referring to that happened in Salt Lake County, which is his jurisdiction. But there's still charges and investigations going on in Utah County. Celeste Boris, actually, her case is through the incidences happened, some of them in Utah County, and the incidents with the skirt and the semen on it, that happened in that's a Utah County investigation. So yeah, so Tim's not off the hook. This is not by any means a major shifting point for his case and his exoneration, which is not going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for sticking with us through this live stream, guys. I hope that everyone's had a really fun time discussing all of the many things about Tim and the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints starting to do a 180 on him. Ryan, I guess I'm going to pull up the song that you sent. Do you want to introduce this?
It's a song I think Eric Moose just sent me. That's pretty fire. It'll play us off pretty well. And I also want to acknowledge the actors that I love the most. Aubrey Plaza for you and Nick Offerman for me.
Yeah, I saw that one.
True. That was spot on. Good call.
Yeah.
Zach Galifianakis. Have I really let myself go that much?
No.
That hurts. That hurts my heart. But
or I was thinking like a Jake Gyllenhaal with a beard, but I don't want you to get I don't want to confuse you that I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think some mountain man, even if it's Brokeback Mountain, something like that. So we're gonna have this song play us off, and don't forget to like and subscribe. What are you doing if not supporting this channel through donations? Venmo, donor box. You can do a reoccurring donation. There's our Patreon, Timmy Did What. You can listen to this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you, everyone who has supported this channel. Thank you, everyone, for your comments to the algorithm. What we're trying to do here is, honestly, what I'm trying to do is make people who have been victims of sex crimes feel heard, that the men in positions of power can't just go parade themselves around and get away with things that if I have the time, I am going to turn on my camera and I am going to shout from the rooftops what men of our society are trying to do and try to get away with. And this is just the Tim Ballard example, but there's so much in our society going on with stuff like this. It's a wider this is a smaller microcosm of a wider issue. So
giant PSA.
Yeah. If you like what we do, keep following this channel for more content. All right. Let's see the Deep Church music video.
Distance of the Deep Church. People have been surveilling Temple Square. It makes it a lot harder to get to work.
Clear. Yeah. They're watching, right? Nah, man, they all watching. Could it be you? Could it be you? Yeah. Started with the halo, hero in the frame, saving all the children, building up a name. Now the lights dim low, truth's looking strange. The hidden war blew up, then he shifted the blame. He's got 2 covenants, one with the sky, one with the mic where the prophets lie. Now every critic's in a Jesuit suit, every tweet's proof of a shadow pursuit. He's yelling, deep church, coming for me, pointing at the camera like it's prophecy. You don't buy a ticket, you're satanic too. Yo, could it be me? Could it be you? Deep church, circle the block. Every time he raps, another dove drops. If you don't stream Hidden War on cue, yeah, he's talking in crew, yeah, he's talking to you. He's got press releases signed by his wife. Under Jesus' covenant, we fight for life. But now he's in the bunker with the blinds all drawn, plotting out bishops from dusk till dawn. Cinemark's part of the grand cabal, popcorn poison, demons in the hall. Says they're all part of the plan, my friend, but I got the spirit and the spirit want revenge. Deep church, echo the fear. He sees the devil every time he looks in the mirror. You don't donate, you're part of the crew. Yo, could it be me? Could it be you? Deep church, circle the block. Every time he rants, tough to knock mobs. If you don't stream Hidden War on cue, yeah, get dirty then cool, yeah, it's gonna be you. BYU got bugs in the pews. The state president's got cameras too. Every time they slip a coded clue. Could it be me? Could it be you? Now he's live stream preaching, voice gone hoarse, screaming I'll expose the deep church force. But the only file they're pulling through is the one that spells delusion too. He made 2 covenants, broke one clean. The other's a movie that nobody's seen. And now he's crying persecution blues. But the deep church, Tim, it's just you. Yeah, it's just you, man. Yeah, it's just you, man. Lights are off, mic's still hot. Could it be you? Could it be you?
Great.
Ever since Tim Ballard announced
Great.
I love the arts. Thank you. You know,
Good stuff.
creativity, unbound, unshackled. Love to see it. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys know where the links are. You guys are going to support them. I don't have to worry about paying my rent. I don't have to worry about eating out tonight. Ryan lives in the middle of nowhere. I unfortunately live very close to Taco Bell and other various restaurants. So that's where I'll be heading right now. Thanks for being here, guys. I got nothing else to say, but this has been an amazing live stream. You are such a gem to work with. Thanks for being here with me, Ryan, providing all this context and knowledge.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it without you. I got to pay Ryan. So any tips going to him? Thanks so much. All right. Any final words there, Rye Guy?
No, we got the best audience in the world. They're cracking me up in the comment section. Good stuff. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Love it. Love it.
All right. That's been not Where's Timmy, not How's Timmy. It's been Timmy Did What?